Okay. Stream time. Streaming time. Beep, bop, boop. Streaming time. Let me get my chat up on the screen so you suspicious characters can take a look. Or I could take a look at what you guys are saying, rather. Do. What is up, my friends? How are you guys? I saw Sneeko did get banned. You know, I don't give a fuck. I don't even care, dude. I don't even care, brother. He deserves it. Bro, I don't have my drink. Give me a second. I don't have my drink. Now I have my drink. Oh, now I have my drink. Sorry. Do I have merch? I think I do. I haven't really fucked around in a while. All right. Sorry about that, guys. A little unprepared today. A little unprepared. Unpeppered today. Yeah, like I said, I think I have merch, but it's like on like Linktree. I don't really do anything with it. It's not really that great. You feel bad for Dream? Well, we'll go through this in a little bit. I don't feel bad for Dream. I don't care. But he stinks like poop. Like that. I'm okay. How are you guys? I'm feeling pretty good today. It's gonna be a little slow day on the stream, which I'm actually kind of happy about. I'm vibbing on it. You know, we have some like videos that I don't even know what we'll do. Probably some more fun stuff. These are shorter. Maybe we'll actually do the Primal Iceberg today. That'll be pretty cool, I think. I am Dream. Yeah. I am Dream. I'm Dream. Just so you guys know, if you do have any video requests or recommendations, you can always go. What is this?
Have you ever noticed that the thing that's supposed to scare us about villains is the fact that they're disabled? And that's...
You're scaring me. What is happening here? I'm gonna say you can send me stuff through Discord. Somebody sent me this interesting TikTok.
Since our childhood, villains have been disability coded, so we've been indoctrinated into thinking that disabled people are scary.
Super chatted $1.99. LMAO.
Hey,
hello, Papa.
What's up, brother?
And evil. So then horror movies have an incentive to use disability in their villains to scare people. This is called the disability coding of villains.
I don't think that there's that much disability coding in the villains that she referenced. Captain Hook, I don't think has a disability. Unless you consider him being afraid of crocodiles or alligators. I don't know. Which one is a disability?
Similar to queer coding, it's when a character has traits of a disability, but it's never explicitly said. And unfortunately, this is most common with villains. Let's use the movie Witches as an example. In this movie, kids are taught that there are secret witches everywhere, and the way we know they're witches is that they only have 2 fingers and are bald. After the movie came out, hundreds of kids with limb differences shared stories of their classmates screaming at them and calling them a witch. Whenever I talk about disability representation, I get called petty and told to focus on the real issues. But when there was laws until 1974 to make it illegal for disabled people to go out in public because they were too scary, this is a real issue.
Man, better times. I'm just kidding. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess that makes some sense. I don't know if I guess Freddy Krueger has a fire skin. I don't know about Captain Hook, though. She uses Captain Hook. I don't think that Captain Hook has a hook for hand. I guess so. Yeah, but who has hooks for hands anymore? I don't know. I guess that kind of makes sense. Okay. I guess I just don't care. Maybe I should just care more. I have to think about it. I guess that's sad for kids with 2 fingers. But when you grow up, if you think about it, with those 2 fingers, look at this. Think about this. Imagine having 2 big fat fingers like that. You're gonna find your spouse is gonna love you. Imagine. It's not gonna be 2 in the pink, 1 in the sink. It's gonna be 1 in each. Okay, so I don't know. What's Ursula's disability? Being obese? Okay, maybe. I guess if we're considering that a disability now. I guess so. I guess it's similar to the whole thing where like a lot of characters are like tropes of like bigoted tropes. Like I was watching Bibbidi Bobbidi Boo yesterday with my wife. What is it called? The Sanderson Sisters 2? I don't know what it's called. Anyway, they have witches. And what was silly is there was a part in the movie where they only found 1 broom, so one of the witches flies off on a Swiffer wet jet, and the other one flies off on 2 Roombas. And I'm like, isn't it so interesting that witches have to use like a cleaning product in order to fly? And I was like, oh, that's probably because like women are associated with like cleaning, and there's like sexism there. But I feel like a lot of us don't associate it anymore. We're just like, oh, witches use brooms, but we don't think about like the deep stereotype that's there. Hocus pocus, yeah. Or like usually goblins in movies and shows and stuff and TV are like Jewish tropes. They're the anti-Semitic tropes. They're usually like have like stereotypical big noses and they love money. But like we don't really associate those 2 things with each other anymore. You know? I guess it's kind of like that. Okay, interesting video. What's this other? You guys are sending me a bunch of TikTok. What is this?
Thing Bryce Hall has ever done.
Creepiest thing.
So there's this 14-year-old little girl TikToker who, let's just say, makes inappropriate content for her age. And
maybe?
Guess who just started making collaboration videos with her? Damn, Bryce Hall will literally do anything for clout.
What? This seems like a reach. This is like the weird... Ew.
Content.
This is like, first of all, I mean, based on what he showed us, it doesn't seem super inappropriate. I mean, she's dancing. I guess you could say it's... I don't know if I'd go that far. What's her name? I feel like this is a big reach. This is like... We've hit like the pinnacle of trying to cancel people. This is like the most bizarre... This is the most bizarre thing ever. I'm trying to find her, where he listed her TikTok. There it is. This just seems like weird. Let's see. ANOKHINALZ. How old is this girl? What a weird name. I think she's Russian. I copy. She's 15. Oh, really? Okay. I still don't think it matters. Unless he's trying to date her. Yeah, I mean, like, it's social media world. You could say, like, be careful of, like, the developing relationship, but I feel like it's not that deep. I mean, I feel like they're both popular creators. She's 40 million followers. I don't think everything needs to be some kind of, like, suggestive grooming in every capacity. I hate people like this guy. He's so annoying. How did he even get popular? He's such a loser. Whatever. People take shit way too far nowadays. It's crazy. What is this?
This man really ordered pizza while his wife was in active labor.
I mean, but listen, this is the perfect time to buy the pizza your wife doesn't like. She's not going to eat it. This is the best time to order a pizza. Oh, I don't want the meat lovers. Can we get the one with pineapple? Yeah, sure. Every time. Oh, we'll get the one with pineapple. Oh, pineapple and ham, pineapple and ham, pineapple and ham. Pineapple and ham. Okay. This time she's not even... This is the only time in your life where your wife will never want pizza. She's not going to want it in this moment. So you might as well get whatever you want. That's just the reality.
And had the nerve to post it on Twitter saying, God, this takes a long time. Had to order pizza. Knowing damn well your wife cannot eat or drink anything the entire time.
Oh no.
As for men, freaking audacity. This is why you got to be careful who you procreate with.
Who cares, bro? That's kind of funny. That's kind of funny. I like that one. That was a good one. Thank you. Okay, that one's unavailable. Beautiful. I like that one. That was my favorite. Having PTSD from smelling jalapeno and pepperoni pizza post-delivery. Yeah, I guess the worst part about that would be like if the wife has like an aversion to it. Oh, I'm in the new Turkey Thomas video. Turkey Tom. In the new Turkey Tom video. Gotta love when I'm in videos. Let's see. We're just gonna watch the part where I'm in it. Oh. Where am I in the video? Here I am. Oh my goodness, that's a really good picture of me. Is it?
She was already depressed and struggled to keep friendships, meaning she was socially vulnerable.
And growing.
She was already depressed.
That's it? That's where I'm in there? He was just watching he just had me in there in black and white? Shit. Do I plan on watching Destiny and Kefals in the future? Probably not. Bro, it's like 3 hours. It's 3 hours. I ain't watching that.
Guitar Warrior super chatted $2. How would you defend yourself from boiling milk?
Probably boiling boobies. That's how I would do it. Yeah, maybe I'll watch that after this. All right. Listen, guys, this is the most important stuff that you're going to see today. It's the Dream stuff. Dream apparently did a face reveal. We're going to find out. I am 100%. I am 100% invested in this. This is very important news. I didn't just hear about Dream yesterday, so let's go. There we go. There's a two-parter from Jaden, good content creator. Part 1, the face reveal. Part 2, people are hating on Dream for it. So let's get this going. I pause the alerts.
Dream.
Whoa! Wow, what an ugly person, Dream. You look terrible. Holy moly! I'm just kidding. I know this is you, Jaden. I'm just busting balls. Okay.
Finally done a face reveal. Yeah, this guy. And speaking of face reveals, hi, what's up? If you guys want to see some more like face content, go subscribe to my second channel, along with some other stuff that I'll be talking about over there. So yeah, this is actually real. Dream has done a face reveal. I don't know how many times.
I wonder, like, it's 23. Dream's 23. Why do the face reveal now? Like, are they feeling like their views are dropping? I feel like you should have never taken the mask off, bro. That's like going to Disney and then they take off the Mickey Mouse costume. It's not the same anymore. You never unsee that. It's like finding out that Santa Claus isn't real. Sorry if I broke the news to anybody.
The last few years that this guy has teased his face reveal.
Oh, is that Bryce Hall? Who is that? Is that actually Dream?
And I know a lot of people were expecting him to be ugly, and all I gotta say is this man, he better watch out, because these stands, they're gonna hunt him down, okay? He's going to TwitchCon. I'm also going to TwitchCon, by the way, so if any of you are going, say hi. But
I'm probably not going to TwitchCon.
I hope he has some security, because I am genuinely concerned for his safety. But yeah, over the last few days...
Imagine Dream showing up to, like, or do you think that in the past Dream showed up to events, like, without the mask on, and just walked there like, nobody knows I'm Dream, you know? Like, thought that they were, like, cool as hell. Like, nobody knows that I'm Dream, you know?
He has been teasing this face reveal extremely hard.
Like, that was Danny Gonzalez? Okay.
Anyone did a little video where they got to see his face reveal before everyone else, and it's...
I wish I could do that. I would have been like, wow, Dream, I don't care. That would have been my reaction. Wow, you're a person. And then I would have hung up. I wish I got to do the reaction. Incredible.
Been building up a lot of hype. Anyway, as I'm recording this video, Dream has tweeted, "We'll be premiering my face reveal on YouTube in around 2 hours. My next tweet will be a picture of me and my best friends finally being together." So yeah, this face reveal...
Were you and your best friends not together before this? Like, what the fuck?
...is about 20 minutes away, and I'm gonna do a live reaction. Let's see what Dream looks like. Okay, here we go, guys. This is Dream's face reveal. Let's see. What does he look like? What does he look like? Okay.
What do I do? Do I just like
come on. Here we go.
Okay. Obviously I can't just turn around.
Oh, come on. You can't tease us like that. Come on.
What do I do?
Here we go. Here it is. Come on. What we've all been waiting for. That's a nice
why not just skip to the end? You know, skip to the end.
cat. I like the cat.
Whoa, is that his penis? What the fuck?
Guinness World Record. Look, I'm a Guinness World Record holder.
Cool.
Right.
Because I'm just so cool.
I got
I'm just gonna skip ahead because I personally just don't care.
Mask.
Whoa! Oh, he looks like the kid that delivers pizzas to me sometimes when it's not like a 30-year-old like, Greek guy. That's rude. Wow.
Hi.
I still tip him well, though.
Feels so awkward. Talking to
Hi.
a camera for the first time.
Dream.
Hi. My name is Clay, otherwise known as Dream online.
Clay? His name is Claymore? Claymond? What is that? Claimer? What is Clay short for? Claymond? Don't care.
May have heard of me, may have not. Maybe you clicked on this video.
Okay.
Wow.
Curiosity. You
He looks like Edward from Twilight with like a less chiseled jaw.
don't care.
Honestly,
But now you see my face.
I'm shocked. He's not ugly. He's not ugly.
He's so
He's
hot.
not ugly. So yeah, that was Dream's face reveal. I'm gonna be honest, okay?
was.
I'm shocked. He's not bad looking, like at all. Probably the best looking Minecraft YouTuber I've ever seen, and that's saying a lot because there's Bad Boy Halo. I mean, anyway, there it is.
I don't know if
There
that
it
is
is
so
for everyone who's been wondering, who's been asking over the last few years, what does Dream look like? He finally dropped his face reveal, and I guess we finally have confirmation.
I think what's more surprising than the Dream face reveal is that Dream hasn't had any pedophile accusations against him, and that is like just the Minecraft community. It's like a 50-50 shot. So that's probably more surprising that he's not a pedophile than what his face looks like. You know what I'm saying?
That one guy is a Dream, and I feel bad for him because ever since that picture dropped, that apparent leak, everyone's been making fun of that innocent guy. Can people leave him alone now, please? Anyway, these are just my thoughts on this entire situation. If you guys have enjoyed.
Whoa, cool video. All right, let's go to the next one. This is people are hating on Dream's face reveal.
So, as you guys probably know, yesterday, Dream ended up finally doing a face reveal.
I didn't know until an hour ago, by the way. I was like, I guess I'll talk about this. I guess it's something interesting. I mean, like, it's... Who cares? I mean, it's interesting, I guess. You know, slow content day, and I kind of like doing bullshit that doesn't matter, you know? My favorite is bullshit that doesn't matter.
And honestly, he didn't look too bad. Like, I mean, sure.
We get it. You want to fuck him, Jaden. Relax.
He's no, like, Markiplier or PewDiePie, but he's not a bad-looking guy, especially considering
Wait, did Meat Canyon did a video?
my expectations were like complete zero. Anyway, after his face reveal went live, he's ugly started trending on Twitter. Like people were just prepared to hate this man's face. No matter what he looked like, this was going to trend. And I'll just play this like live reaction that these people did because it kind of summarizes a lot of what Twitter is thinking right now.
Personally, I think the biggest issue with Dream's face reveal is that he was doing whiteface for so long.
I'm dropping it. Hi.
Why do you have to make that face? It had my lady energy. My lady. A little cringe, but you know. I love it.
Even have people making entire threads comparing Dream to every white guy ever, like Matt Pat, Shane Dawson, this goblin, Rumpelstiltskin, which, I mean, they do have a pretty good point here. Like, he kind of does look like your average white guy, but his jawline, I mean, dude looks like the troll face. But yeah, obviously, Dream is not ugly. He's a pretty good looking guy.
We get it, Jaden. How many times are you gonna say he's a pretty good looking guy? Jesus Christ, what the fuck, dude? Yeah, I mean, I call boys and girls dude. You know what? I'm tired of overcorrecting. I call everybody brother and dude, even women. And one of the weird traps that you get into is like Jaden's trans, which doesn't really matter. But then I'm like, oh, should I call her bro or sis? But it's like I call all guys bro. So if I call her bro at first, it's like I call all the girls bro. But then I go to sis. Does that mean that I'm overcorrecting? Fucking mental breakdown. Having a fucking meltdown, bro. It's crazy.
I was kind of surprised to see, like...
What if that's not really Dream, by the way? What if Dream is that's just not the real Dream? It's like, oh, face reveal. Nicholas Diorio. Because I heard that Dream was fat. Just saying.
Tweets with hundreds of thousands of likes, just
Well, I'm fat too. Sorry, Nick.
completely crapping all over his appearance, and we're gonna go over some of those in this video. Dream is ugly as frick. I drew what I think Dream looks like.
That's 150,000 likes on that one. The first one.
Of those in this video. Dream.
The first one got 17,000 likes.
Ludwig. Me, after replying ugly under Dream's face reveal, putting my phone... Okay, I can't finish that one. Oh my god.
Yeah, so putting the phone in your ass for it to vibrate. They're looking for a vibrator.
Dream face reveal, and it's Shane Dawson. I mean, come on, all right? He doesn't look that bad. I was the first...
Shane Dawson's not a bad-looking guy. He just has his eyes are just escaping each other.
Person to call Dream ugly. Wow, that's a great accomplishment.
Wait, who is that person? We have to immortalize that person. That's funny. Care Bear.
I was the first person to call Dream ugly. Wow, that's a great accomplishment, man. You should really pin this on your wall. This gamer word, Dream, is ugly as F. Thank you, Spotify. Dream's stronger than me for real, because if I face revealed only for put the mask back on and he's ugly to be trending immediately after, I would never let myself see another day. Dream isn't ugly. You just had high expectations, LMAO. I don't even know what this
They're just always going to say Dream was ugly. They're always going to make fun of him. So
person is talking about. Like, are they talking about the Dream stands? Wait, hold on. Are you telling me that some of these people hating on Dream were his stands? Like, oh okay. I'm not the biggest fan of Dream, but I literally went into it with
Someone goes, Jesus, Bob, how many times are you going to call Shane good looking?
zero expectations, and he's not ugly. So how can you claim to be one of his biggest fans and call him ugly? Like, what? I don't even watch Dream, but to all the assholes saying he's ugly, baby, you be looking like this to F you on. And that's a pretty good point. I guarantee all of these people on Twitter look worse than he does. Bruh, maybe. I was in the premiere for Dream's face reveal just now, and people are saying put the mask back on. Bro, I'm not even a Dream fan, and he looks normal, especially for a YouTuber. Y'all just trying to hate because he's popular, not y'all trending put the mask back on. I love Twitter. Bro looks like an effed up dog. Okay, come on, that's that's too far. Ironically, Matt Pat would tweet out this, saying he saw Dream and told him to put the mask back on.
Base Matt Pat, am I
This
right?
is funny because a lot of people are saying that they look exactly the same. Anyway, some of these tweets are genuinely pretty funny, but apparently there are like people who actually believe that Dream is ugly. Like, okay, how much do you have to hate a guy to think he's ugly? Like, everyone was dogging on him for months, saying that he was obese and he was ugly. But then the guy comes out looking fit and looking like normal, like a
and looking handsome, Jaden. Put it away.
Normal person, and people are still hating on him. At this point, I'm sure Dream is like used to this stuff, so it probably doesn't affect him too much. But Jesus Christ, this is why the guy was so scared to face reveal in the first place, because he has to deal with this crazy shit. There's even people like,
yeah, what a rough world. What a rough world to do a face reveal and not look like shit. Your career is probably still taking a little bit of a hit. This seems like a weird thing to do, but
making memes.
Unless there was like an entire rebranding, you know, thing. This might not be great for his career. I mean, if he put it like for this, I mean, their brand is a paper plate over their face from, you know, any cookout celebration with children. But if he was going to make this drastic shift, I mean, he should hopefully have planned for like an actual content, like a slight content shift or a little bit of a PR shift in a way that makes him look more mature so he could stay a little bit more relevant.
Of like tweets and stuff he made that got him canceled, and like, how do you see this and somehow think this is a bad thing? Like, this honestly makes Dream look like a Giga Chad. Like, putting him next to these dumb tweets that got him canceled, it actually paints him in a positive light, not a negative one.
Which one got him canceled? They really be visualizing his personal experience with it. They really be like, he visualized his personal experience as a kid with ADHD and medication for doing disgusting drugs. I have no idea what the fuck.
Putting him next to these dumb tweets that got him canceled, it
what is that? Why
actually paints him in a positive light, not a negative one. Corpse husband in hiding after Dream face reveal gained negative traction. Yeah, if I were Corpse, I would never face reveal. I mean, the guy has a lot of...
he just started doing IRL stuff? That makes sense.
Issues. Yeah. I doubt he even wants to face reveal, because then he would have to deal with just a lot of bullshit. YouTubers acting shocked when they get a FaceTime with the most normal looking white dude ever. Marshmallow never gonna show his face after saying what happened with Dream. But yeah, Dream did it. Dream came out and did a face reveal, and
it's just the creepiest way he did the face reveal.
His face after saying what happened with Dream. But yeah, Dream did it. Dream came out and did a face reveal, and I really like...
Everybody telling me that Sneeko got banned, I don't care. I know. Good. He deserves it for what he did to Brandon Buckingham. And that's the whole video. I'll upload that clip. He got banned. Oh no. Good. I don't give a fuck. He deserved it.
Like how he said in his video that Dream could have been anyone.
He deserves it more than Andrew Tate, because at least Andrew Tate wasn't pushing false accusations against people. So Andrew Tate also wasn't proposing the Jewish question and getting close to far right leaning content creators. So frankly, I think Andrew Tate probably deserves to be back, but you can leave Sneeko gone because he's garbage anyway.
And it basically said it didn't really matter what Dream looked like, because at the end of the day, Dream is a dream. I'm trying.
Dream is a dream. Oh, Jaden, put your fucking girl cock back in your pants. Stop it. Jesus Christ, this video is so horny. It's like watching a Papa Gut video about his wife. Oh, he's getting all sexual. Do I look cool like this? I look like DJ Detweiler.
I'm gonna end this video off with something poetic. Okay, don't judge me. Twitter did what Twitter does, and they shit on Dream, even though he's not bad looking. He really isn't. Anyway, these are just my thoughts on this entire situation. If you guys have enjoyed, be sure to hit the like button down below and subscribe to the channel.
This is probably a little scuffed, just as the rest of my channel is. I mean, my icon's drawn in paint with the default like paint.net lime green. Okay, this channel is living proof that anyone can do anything. Kind of anyone can be under the mask. And I don't want my face reveal to take away from that fact. It's official. It's true, and it can be. And you can do it if you want to. Dream could have been anyone from anywhere. I love you guys from the bottom of my heart. The impact that you guys have had on me and my family and my friends and everyone around me impacted my life in every way you can possibly think. And I just know that from now it'll be even bigger, even crazier. And that I will be forever in debt to my viewers and to my subscribers. And I love you guys.
So I was just looking because, you know, when we announced the Dream thing, the one thing we never addressed is there Rule 34 of Dream? And there is. It's official. Don't look that up. I gotta get this off my computer because I have Rule 34 Dream searched on my computer. Gotta get rid of that. Yikers! All right, let's bang this out with this last video from Meat Canyon. Canyon.
Hi. This is so awkward talking to the camera for the first time. I'm Clay, also known as Dream. You may have heard of me or not.
This is the prettiest Meat Canyon thing I've ever seen. You know what I mean?
Well, this is my face reveal, and this is what I look like.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
I'm so happy to reveal my face to you, and I'm happy to be with friends and make IRL content. So, thank you for watching. I probably won't show my face in future videos, just a heads up, but yep, here's
did he say that?
My face, so thanks for watching. Thanks.
You did good, Dream.
Who is that, Vegeta? What the fuck?
Very good.
Piccolo?
It feels wrong not revealing my full face. I feel like I'm lying to everyone.
Shh, sweet baby. Does baby want some milk?
Yeah, that sounds great, actually. I love it.
Good. Here, latch. That's my sweet prince. There you go, feed up. By showing your face, you have solidified your fan base even more. What was once a name, an icon, a symbol, now has a soul. Your fans will adore you even more. And we can milk me for more time to come. So
he said to come. Oh, I'm sorry. That got me. That one got me. That broke my silence. That broke my my stupor. Is that what the word is? My gaze, my fixation.
So much delicious milk for every teary-eyed fan who saw your
this
face.
is horrible. I was like, this video is only a minute and a half long. It's not too short, and now it's too long.
You make it sound so wrong. Like I'm manipulating millions of people who are irrationally attached to me in a deep, emotional way.
No, Dream.
I feel dirty.
You're not dirty.
I'm not?
You're just hungry. Go about your back. There you go. That's my sweet little prince. There he is. My little Dream. Yes, feed my little Dream. Feed until your belly is nice and full.
Bro, please.
We have so much milk to give.
Wow, I need to not. That was horrible. Wow, great ending to that segment. Thanks.
Nico Machilo became a member.
Thanks for the membership, brother. Fucking Jesus. I'm depressed now. The longest 1.5 minutes of my life. Let me tell you, brother. Let me tell you, brother. Shot through the heart. You're too late. Hey, like that. Bing bong bing 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 bing. No problem, sir. Thank you. I'm trying too hard, but him not turning his head gave him a weird. But yeah. That was horrible. My stomach actually physically hurts. All right, guys. Jesus. So, as I was getting on to this, excuse me, let me finish yawning. So, as I was coming online to stream, I saw that Turkey Thomas released another video about, or released a video about arcade Craniacs. I've talked about that a couple times. I'm like, yeah, that's a topic I don't want to talk about. Like, I've talked about it a few times already, you know. Of course, people come in the stream, Papa God, can you watch the video? I'm like, I'll think about it. But then, of course, they're like, Papa God, you're in the video a little bit. So I'm like, okay, now I have to watch it. That's a rule. I have to watch everything that I'm in. I don't. I'm just kidding. But now I'm curious. So let's get this started. This is The Disappearance of Arcade Craniacs by Turkey Thomas.
YouTube is host to many radically different kinds of content, from vlogging to challenges, from video essays to streamers' VODs, and even a few heated gamer moments every once in a while that it prefers to abscond. But despite the multiplicity of content it enables, the one category it seems particularly inept at platforming is healthy, functional relationships. Save a very...
That's funny. That was funny. Oh, that's actually kind of funny. That really caught me there. Healthy functioning. You know what? Like, hot take. I don't think that there is like a pinnacle for like what a healthy functioning relationship really is. I mean, realistically speaking, every relationship's going to have like not great moments of it and then great moments of it. And like most of the time you just don't express the horrible moments of your relationship. You know, there are times where the horrible moments could be something like super abusive, but most of the time it's just like, oh, this wasn't like a great, like this person acted poorly here and this person acted poorly here. Like, we all know that like when you're with somebody for a long period of time, especially when you go through different struggles like financial and struggles and whatnot, that like there are going to be times where both of you are going to act like shit. And when we talk about like the perfect, like if you guys, like there are times where my wife and I will fight over stupid things. It doesn't happen a lot, but we'll fight over dumb stuff. And like that just happens. And if you saw that, you'd be like, oh man, this isn't perfect, but it is perfect. That's just relationships. The sucky part about relationships online is that sometimes when a relationship ends, one person of the party, or even both, but if one person can go out and go crazy and start like talking shit about the other one for like no reason. I'm not saying that this would happen here. I'm just saying that this happens in like the online sphere. I feel like something bad will happen and it will be between the couple and they'll resolve it to an extent. And then after things break up, they'll be like, well, I want to hurt this person's career in some capacity. I'm not saying that this happened. I'm not saying that this happened here. I'm just saying fundamentally when it comes to like online relationships, a lot of times what gets in the way is like the fame of it. It's not like what happens underneath. It's more like when some people want to like take it and run with it. It's like a performative way. Again, not saying that she did this. I'm just saying like fundamentally, I don't think that like YouTube relationships are any more or less toxic than like real life relationships. You know what I mean?
Very select few here and there, it's almost inevitable that when two people's relationship moves from
these two are pretty bad though. These two are pretty bad.
Their private lives into the scope of their online personas, where it becomes the subject of content creation, it's simply a...
But even that, like these two, because I remember these two, like she wanted to like date another guy or some shit, it was like bad. If this was like your real life coworker and he told you about this, you'd be like, damn brother, sorry man. That's it. Like if you wouldn't be super personally invested, you're like, damn brother. I hope you can handle that. Hope you can deal with that, handle that situation.
Their private lives into the scope of their online personas, where it becomes the subject of content creation, it's simply a matter of time before it crashes and burns. Usually, with a heavily publicized fallout all over social media. With this being such a pattern, we must wonder why. Yeah. Why is it that YouTubers have such a rotten track record when it comes to dating? Today, we'll be covering the case...
Because, like, anytime a relationship fails, most of the time it's not, like, a good ending. Like, I mean, there are people who break up, like, really well and platonically, but even if they do that, like, after the fact, things might boil up and fester over, and then you start hating each other, or... There's a reason you broke up. A lot of times it's because you were with somebody that you're not compatible with for a long time, and then you bring out the worst in each other, you know?
Case of Arcade Craniacs, or namely, how the relationship of Edward Centennial and Nicole Land not only ended on an extremely sour note in front of hundreds of thousands of fans, but was also revealed to have been doomed from the very start.
Yeah. FaZe Banks. Okay, thank you.
The year was 2007, just a couple of years after YouTube had been created. At this point in time, making a career off of ads...
Look at how great that looks. Can we go back to that?
Since wasn't even a dream in the minds of people who posted their videos on the site, which was a little more than a way to share home videos with...
Is that Dream? Who's this guy?
your friends, only ever accidentally going viral.
That's Barack Obama. I know that one.
Which was what being a web
That's Boogie 2988.
celebrity was called back then. Just to give you an idea of how prehistoric these times were, the troll face was a whole year away from being conceived. Meanwhile, a 15-year-old named Edward Centennial created a YouTube account called Superhero 15 2007, where he would sporadically upload videos of himself doing tricks while
skateboarding. Okay. Cringe.
Skating, with no pretense of garnering any sort of online following. This went on for a few years, until in 2013, a video would be uploaded called Guy Cries Over Ex-Girlfriend, Original, where a now 21-year-old Edward would be spoofing another video, which was uploaded 2 days prior and was very popular at the time.
What is this guy? He looks familiar, but I don't know who he is.
A guy lamenting his breakup. In the video, Edward appears to have over-the-top mascara tears streaming down his face, acting as a performative, overly dramatic, scorned lover, intermittently calling his ex-girlfriend who broke up with him a liar and declaring his love for her, at one point even pretending to have a heart attack.
Babe, look, I can see you from right here, babe. Look, it's you and me together, babe. Trust, babe. Fucking love you, babe.
Wow. I don't know why the Ayudame got me.
This is one of the strangest acts of foreshadowing ever published on the internet, and soon you'll come to see why. The years went by as the account drifted into complete inactivity, and it was probably during this period that Edward was working at Burger King as a manager and was—
Can we just talk about something though really quick? Because like the Ayudame got me for no reason. It makes no sense. I feel like, and this is maybe, I'm just exploring this idea. You guys think about it. This is more for my people of color in the audience, I guess. Maybe the white people too. It seems like white people have like find any time a person of color says something in the native language, they find it like fascinating. Ayudame, like, oh, that made me laugh for no reason. It was just like him comedically saying a word. But if you comedically said the word help, I wouldn't have laughed. Does that make sense? I feel like I haven't explored that idea enough. But if in your especially like old people, old white people, like yeah, Ayudame, like I don't know. Like when at work, I used to work with like a lot of guys from like El Salvador, and they would say like "Como se llama," and then every day I would come and I would say "Como se llama," like I knew something, like I knew the secret code. Does that mean what's your name? What does "Como se llama" mean? I don't know. But it's like a Papa Noel. They used to call me Papa Noel. I like that one. I think that means Santa Claus or fat fuck. One of those two. You know? Yeah.
It was mostly not online whatsoever. That is, until January 1st of
who used to be a manager of Burger King? Edward Centino?
2017, when Edward was walking home at 4 a.m., probably after celebrating New Year's. When
you also laugh when someone says help? Yeah, that's exactly what I was trying to say, you fucking idiot.
Stranger assaulted him with a steel pipe.
What?
This assault made Edward unable to work or even—
Was this real, or was Sneeko faking it?
The attack not only severely damaged his upper lip, but also fractured his jaw. His lip ended up needing surgical repair from a plastic surgeon, which his insurance didn't cover. So he opened a GoFundMe to raise financial support for the medical bills, which actually racked up to the tune of $27,000. A relatively big—
That's terrible. We obviously, dude, this guy got cracked in the face with a pipe, and he has to pay $27,000 to correct that? That makes no sense to me. We really do have a fucked up healthcare system. What the fuck?
Big Los Angeles skate park and collective called the Barracks made a Facebook post advertising for Edward's GoFundMe, which then managed to raise just a little over $9,000 from 487 donors. This resulting downtime from the recuperation had Edward trying to look for alternative sources of income. 6 months later, in July 2017, the YouTube account Arcade Craniacs was created, with the express purpose of posting videos related to arcade games, which was already somewhat of a niche content genre on YouTube. For the most part, the person being seen on camera was his girlfriend Nicole, or Nikki, as she was usually referred to. While Edward's voice was often heard from behind the camera, he was seldom visible, most likely due to his then still healing facial scar, which he tried to conceal whenever he was on camera.
So we're at this video, the claw machine full of money. We have 510 comments. Whoa. That, I don't know, that's a lot, okay? I tell you that much.
Not much time elapsed between their channel's creation and their first successful video, How to Cheat at Carnival Games, which now has amassed a little over 700,000 views.
We won a fidget spinner for losing! We just won a fidget spinner for losing! Alright, so that's the video, guys.
In that video's description, their Patreon account was being advertised, though it has since been deleted. The channel would continue to hone in the content and produce many other wildly successful videos, as well as some occasionally racy thumbnails with scantily clad or otherwise sexually exploitative pictures of Nicole. Because of this, the channel was targeted by the demonetization algorithm a few times, which Edward took to Twitter to complain about. I'll take a very brief break here to address Edward's Twitter account that was created at around the same time that the Arcade Craniacs channel was, and that, for whatever reason, he has a disturbing amount of attention dedicated to his bowel movements. evidence. What? What are you talking about? Ha ha ha. This dude tweeted about me. Ha ha ha. Plus, I was taking a poop and still am right now, so I have nothing to do. Don't eat Chipotle. Have you ever pooped a demonic poop before? Well, I have. I am unsure why this is, but I'm not here to judge. In any event, while the growth of the channel was already linearly going up over time and their arcade videos were frequently netting over 1 million views, it skyrocketed once 2020 and the lockdowns came around, which caused the arcades that they would routinely visit in order to shoot content to close down. This led them to make a pivot to 3 a.m. content, which is basically a genre of YouTube videos where—
Hey man, a lot of people blew up during that, a lot of people blew up during the old, what is it called, the pandemic. Me being one of them, of course. You know, and then a lot of people fell off afterwards. Not me, of course.
If you do certain things at 3 a.m., creepypasta characters come
demonic shits are real. Bro, you know what's crazy? When I was younger, when I would poop a lot of times, my butt would bleed. There's no joke there. It would just, I guess I had a bad diet. That doesn't happen now. So, but you guys remember those sharp poops? I don't know what I was eating, but I would always have sharp fucking poops.
Life and tried to kill you, or something like that.
I'm hugging him! I'm hugging him! Dude, he's looking at me. Oh, no, dude, he didn't let go of my freaking hand, dude.
In 2020, there were rumors going around that Chuck E. Cheese was going to close down, and they capitalized on this trend quite successfully, much to the joy of Edward, whose lifelong enjoyment of the pizza franchise got his family to nickname him Chucky. At around this time, they started frequently collaborating with Lissy Noel, a fellow arcade channel turned 3 a.m. YouTuber, however unlikely that pipeline may be. Despite the evidence try-hardish and view-hungry nature of every facet of this kind of content, Craniacs videos had a twist to them. They had a semblance of self-awareness and a sense of humor. Sure, they were still pandering as hard as possible to the YouTube algorithm that regularly feeds this crap to kids, but there were moments that you could actually call funny.
I remember when Edward Santino like blew up on TikTok too, and everybody loved them, you know?
Oh my god!
What the hell?
You
what are you looking at?
What is
He's
happening?
listening to the baby! You guys, he literally has a fat ass and I want to smack it!
This, plus their other not
Sorry, this stuff is ridiculous.
so subtle titling, thumbnail, and hijink strategies to milk the content for as many views as possible, such as pretending that the channel was going to end, or doing the soy face and having arrows and red circles in every thumbnail, gave them a kind of meme status that launched their channel into orbit. At its absolute peak—
Is that all I need to do? Put like red circles and arrows and stuff in it? I gotta start doing that.
The channel was getting millions of views on average, and the hideous, trashy aesthetic and overly obnoxious delivery that the videos had became a source of entertainment, causing some to hate watch the videos in the same way that someone may watch Nikocado Avocado. But this hate base eventually even evolved into a loyal following who genuinely enjoyed their videos for what they were. They had a real fan base who appreciated what they did, and supported them as a couple.
2, 1, go! He's twerking!
Oh my god, what the hell?
At this point, it looks like everything was on the up and up for Edward and Nicole. But, as a wise man once said, if you ride like lightning, you'll crash like thunder. Sometimes, the best way to hide things is in plain sight. On the surface, it seemed as if Nikki and Edward were in a great relationship, collaborating towards their shared goal of growing their particular brand of YouTube content, regardless of how taxing or strange it could be, and being remarkably successful at it. However, behind these scenes, things were a lot darker than expected. On October 3rd, 2021, a video was uploaded on the Arcade Craniacs channel that had Nikki on the thumbnail, though she was nowhere to be seen in the video itself, which raised a few eyebrows. But this was nothing out of the ordinary. However, behind these scenes, unbeknownst to any of the viewers, they had broken up, and were far from being on good terms. The channel kept uploading as if nothing had happened, and still getting substantial amounts of views. But on October 12th, Nikki posted to her TikTok, Wabi Sabi. In the video, there was a caption which read, "Trying to have an appetite while you're going through a breakup." This puzzled the many fans of Craniacs that followed her on social media. What could this mean? Was she joking? The same day, Nikki would upload a video to the YouTube channel called Me Ranting in New York, where she would document her and her friend Anu, who was herself another successful TikToker, on their trip to New York, which she mentioned she would not have been able to do while in the relationship she was in. After some montage of the traveling, she begins talking about the breakup in a way that heavily suggested that her relationship with Edward was extremely bad for her.
Another thing is that I literally threw up on myself one day ago. Have not thrown up in many years. The last time I threw up on myself was the night that I met my ex-boyfriend Edward. So isn't that weird? Isn't that kind of quirky? It's pretty quirky. People's online relationships that are couple goals, like people's relationships that are in the social media spotlight, are not always what they seem. So this may seem very abrupt to you guys, but it's not to me. It's not in my life, abrupt. I broke up with Edward several weeks ago for very, 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 very valid reasons.
A couple days later, most likely due to people rapidly commenting on all of his accounts, asking him about it, Edward got on TikTok Live and decided to clear the air.
Yeah, he
He started
started
to cry
crying.
throughout the entirety of the stream, blaming himself for the breakup.
Sorry, I'm
saying
gonna laugh at him, but it was kind of. It seems like he's a bit manipulative.
how good of a person she was, and how he didn't deserve her.
Like, I don't deserve nothing in life. I don't deserve nothing, dude. She's Nicole's like the most amazing woman in the world, dude. I fucking love her, dude. She's such a fucking.
So from what I remember of this entire situation, I did this a long time ago, so you might want to like watch my original takes on this scenario. I remember my general perspective was that, okay, so first and foremost, when it comes to the grooming aspect of the allegation, I personally don't think that it's grooming. She was 17, he was 23. That's an inappropriate age range, but grooming isn't just having an inappropriate relationship. It's going into a relationship with the intentions of manipulating somebody into sexual abuse, and I don't think that that's what happened. I don't think that he was specifically targeted her. I think that, like, for whatever reason, his family, her and her family, they felt that, like, this relationship was appropriate, even though I don't think it is by our standards. They were in California. I'm going to link this in the chat. They were in California, so obviously, like, it's illegal. If you got arrested, I don't give a shit. Unfortunately, a lot of places in, like, the United States have, like, an age consent of, like, 16 and 17. I think that we need to generally have a conversation about changing the age of consent in the entire United States. I personally think that we should baseline at 18, and I don't really think anybody that's over the age of 25 should be dating anybody that's, like, 18. I think it should be, like, 18 to 25 kind of a thing. But I don't think that this was an intentional setup and manipulation of somebody. I do think that the relationship is inappropriate, but we have to, like, differentiate like grooming from, like, an inappropriate action, if that makes sense. The outside of that being said, I do think that, like, he seemed to be a manipulative person. I don't think that he was actively trying to manipulate her, but he does seem to be manipulative, if that makes sense. You'd have to watch my original take to go through, like, the specifics. If you're not interested in doing that, I can understand that, but, like, you'd have to go through there to, like, go through my process. As time goes on, we start to have more conversations about these inappropriate age ranges as a society, and we start to, like, shift the narrative. Because if you look at this map, unfortunately, in a lot of places in, like, you know, in the United States, like, 18 isn't even the standard. It's like a lot of 16 and 17. We're, like, all over the place when it comes to, like, moral, legal. It's terrible. If you got arrested, I don't care. Good. But that's, like, my general take. I just still think he was shitty. I think there was one instance where he tried to get her pregnant so that she wouldn't leave him. That's, like, really shitty and manipulative, right? So that's my general take. I don't think that he groomed her, but I think the relationship was inappropriate. I think that she had, like, a lot of struggles in her family life that didn't protect her the way that they should have. I think that, like, his family thought that this was appropriate. Unfortunately, a lot of people find 17 to be, like, reasonable for, like, a 23-year-old to interact with them. And in the real world, online, we're having different conversations, which is a good thing. But then we should have conversations about the way that we orchestrate age of consent. Like, if I had to put together a chart, I would make it so that it was, like, nobody can do anything under, like, 16. So I guess, like, a 2-year age range. I don't know. 16 to 18, 17 to 20, 18 to 25, and then, like, 25 and up, you could do whatever you want. That's how I would, like, generally do it. I could probably flow that out a little bit more. Yeah. So that's kind of my take on that. You could disagree, but I don't think that it was grooming. I don't think that he actively tried to, like, set her up for sexual exploitation, because that's what grooming is. It's like a deep, methodical, intentional setup for a sexual exploitation. It doesn't need to be grooming for it to be inappropriate. You know? And yeah. You know?
A genuine soul. Such a nice person. She's such a nice person, dude. And I messed everything up in the beginning of our relationship, dude.
And I'm not going to say this is, like, a hard fact or anything, but like I said, I used to work with, like, a lot of Hispanic people, and I've talked to them about age of consent and stuff. Their perspectives are a little different, especially, like, migrants that, like, just came over. I'm not saying that they're bad people or anything. I'm not trying to be like this, like, fuck this guy. I'm not even saying that you should take this and be like, this is a fact. I'm just saying, from my interactions with some Hispanic people, they have, like, a little bit of a different take on some age of consent stuff, because the country they come from has, like, looser standards on the age of consent. I obviously disagree with that culturally. I'm not even saying that this doesn't necessarily applies to them. I'm not trying to just make any kind of, like, a fuck Hispanic people or any kind of, like, perspective like that. I'm just saying it could potentially be a cultural aspect as well. It could also not be a cultural aspect. Just something that I'm bringing up. Something to bring up for potential context. You know, sorry if that's a little uncomfortable. I'm not trying to be, like, any type of bad thing here. I'm just trying to bring up as much context as I possibly can. Because for me, it's like one of those things where it's intention versus action. The action can be bad without the intention being bad, and I think that that's what this is. That being said, again, I'm sorry for like reiterating this so much. I do think that he's kind of an asshole. He's kind of a shitty person. So, you know.
I'm just a really like a crap human, dude. Like don't get me wrong. Like me and Nicole, we had a lot of times where we're like we love each other so much, and we've done so many like cool things together. But it's just like in the beginning, dude, I was just so messed up from like things that happened in my life, and like I trust me, guys. Nicole didn't do nothing at all. She's been the most nicest, most caring, fucking loving person ever. It's just all on me. I'm just a crap human, dude.
The reason I'm laughing is because I get the feeling, and from what I haven't visited this topic in a while, but like the crying doesn't really come off as super like 100% genuine to me, you know?
Literally just a crap human. I don't deserve nothing in life. I don't deserve anything, you know?
Edward's very public display of regret, as well as his purposeful, though vague, admission of guilt, persuaded many people to flock over to his side. The audience members took notice with the contrast of how poorly he was dealing with it, saying that he was struggling to even record new content for the channel, juxtaposed against how Nicole addressed it in a much more emotionally composed way during a trip to New York, and implying that Edward was at fault. Because of this, despite the details and reasons for the breakup still being completely unknown, the public began resenting Nicole for her role in initiating it, which she took offense to. Many people commented on any post of hers with another guy saying, "That's not Edward," which led her to post this TikTok about a month after the breakup, complaining about the stragglers left over from the Craniacs fanbase that were still following her just to attack her. The post inflamed the commenters even more, which prompted Nicole to make a series of Instagram stories clarifying that the reason why it was such a sensitive topic and why the comments annoyed her was because she'd allegedly been groomed by Edward since age 17. And due to the abusive nature of the relationship, being reminded of it all the time was very vexing for her. After a long period of awkward silence from both of them, now it seemed that things were coming to a head. Soon following her allegations that Edward was a groomer, Edward took to his stories to counter her.
Well, a lot of this is because, like, after they broke up, Edward had like a massively disproportionate response that caused his fans to have a meltdown and start harassing her for the breakup. Right? Like, this is one of the problems as well. It's like, you don't need to, and like whether he intentionally sent them or not is like effectively irrelevant. It's one of those things where, like, you know, what happens is that people fanboy, people fangirl, they like to, you know, oh, I like this creator, so then they'll be far too charitable to like that creator, and then like they break up, and the mature thing to do is be like, they broke up and it's irrelevant to you. Their specifics shouldn't really matter unless they're like abusive specifics, but you understand my point. A lot of people, you know what I mean? But instead, a lot of the fans were like, oh, nope, we're going to take it and we're going to fucking run with it, and we're going to run to the moon, you know? We're going to run to the absolute moon. And then, like, what happens? Then she feels compelled to respond because she's getting constantly, like, you know, harassed by his fans.
Claims. And this time, his tune would be nothing like the last time he talked about Nicole. I'll mostly let his demeanor speak for itself.
What the fuck I just read on Nicole's story, making the worst fake fucking accusation about me. Now, I have not even talked about her in fucking months so we could move on with our fucking lives, but she always has to bring my fucking name up so she could be relevant because she's irrelevant now. I legit have proof on the next story to show you that it's all bullshit. You can't believe everything on the fucking internet. And you know what? You know what's the most fucked up thing is that a lot of you guys have no idea what happened.
He didn't really have anything to prove anything, by the way. He didn't have any, there was no proof. What his proof boiled down to, that after they broke up, they hung out afterwards and she missed him and they were hugging, which is very normal for anybody who's ever broken up with somebody before. There's usually like that post-relationship phase. It depends on the relationship, but like where like you guys miss each other, so you get back together a little bit, but then you're like, no, we have to stay apart. And it's kind of like this like de-escalation of a relationship.
Happens behind the scenes when we broke up. Has she called me saying that she misses me, how much she loves me, how she did the worst decision in her life in breaking up with me? I legit have proof, okay?
Yeah, see, this is nothing. This doesn't prove anything. That's creepy, by the way.
So long to
the fact that he like filmed that and kissed her and then looked into the camera is the creepiest fucking thing that I've ever seen.
Weepy guy taking on all of the blame in the video.
But like that doesn't prove anything. That just proves that they were in a normal, like a relationship that's like somewhat normal, where you break up, you miss each other, so you kind of get back together halfway, but then like you're like, we shouldn't be doing this kind of a thing. That's very annoying. I mean, that's very normal. What he's doing is annoying and like really bizarre that he even recorded that in the first place. It's really weird.
He uses the fact that she hung out with him after the breakup against her, also showing a comment of hers. It reads as follows. Y'all, I had a boyfriend before I met Edward. We met when I was 18. I don't appreciate a lot of these comments that are straight up making up things about me. To which Edward himself replied, SMH dude, this is why social media is so toxic. When this series of stories was posted to YouTube, Nicole's friend Anu commented on it saying, I was a personal witness to the pain and suffering Nikki had to endure post Edward, and I will stand by her in support for her standing up for herself. She was 17 when they started dating, and she has refuted Edward's lies in her Instagram story. When you are in an abusive relationship, your abuser can often make you do things / lie to protect their image. I have literally experienced the same thing in past relationships. You all need to start believing victims and look at the cold, hard video evidence in front of you, presented by the person victimized in the situation, not a shoddy TikTok comment that he forced her to post. Going over to Nicole's Instagram stories, she not only claimed that she was compelled to write that comment exonerating Edward, but did go on to show that they were already together before she was 18, pointing out that she still had public Instagram posts up from the time when they first met that anyone could go look at. One of these DMs included Edward claiming that he was 16 to her, which was a blatant lie considering he was already 23 years old at the time. But
well, from my understanding of that clip, from what I remember reading, I think there was more to that. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, that he was like, just kidding, I'm not 16, very quickly into that conversation. It was like a weird joke, and I think the next line was him admitting he wasn't actually 16. So that's very important, because like if he was like, oh, I'm only 16 and you're 17, that would show that like he would be like, oh, I'm trying to go after it could potentially show that he's trying to go after this younger girl, whereas I think it was just kind of a stupid joke that he had made. Yeah, so I think that like he very quickly was like, oh, I'm just kidding, almost immediately.
Included Edward claiming that he was 16 to her, which was a blatant lie considering he was already 23 years old at the time. But based on old tweets from Edward, he seemed to think that he looked young for his age, perhaps lending some credibility to the fact that he thought he could get away with the lie. Multiple videos in her Instagram Reels, still up as of writing this video, show Edward as early as April 2016, one even containing an, again, sleeping Nicole. This theme of recording her while she's out without her consent or knowledge just keeps popping up, since in another video, which now seems to have been deleted, a drinking Edward films Nicole, who was still a minor at the time, completely knocked out unconscious, presumably from drinking with him, with hickeys on her chest, while he essentially gloated about having taken Polaroid pictures of her. Nicole goes on to expound upon their difference in age. I was born on November 20th, 1998. His birthday is January 27th, 1992. Many didn't realize
Wait. Oh, it's 6-year difference. I'm like counting the wrong way.
our
Sorry.
age gap. I posted clues to
My math didn't math.
this so many times and in my videos, and no one noticed. Like, I'm tired. Edward has tried his best to be my friend, just so I wouldn't say shit about this. Also, how am I a gold digger if I was out working with him too? Like, we were there at the same hours I filmed. Haha, the effort y'all will go through to call me a bitch when he was a full-grown man dating a 17-year-old. He attended my graduation ceremony. As for Edward's claims about her still having feelings for him and regretting having broken up with him, and the footage he took while in her new apartment, Nicole had explanations for those as well. I'm really f***ing broken up. Attended sweet, and I would like if you just didn't talk to me unless it's business / about the money you owe me, because I feel very connected to this person. Although it is so brand new, and I want to date them without you blowing up my phone and stuff. I'm sorry, but like, I told you I'm looking for my soulmate. I'm looking for someone who can never hurt me, and I'm taking steps to do that. You should move on. You should let go. I don't feel any romantic love for you anymore, and I really haven't for a while. I felt disconnected from you even before I tried to break up with you this last time. My ex is reaching so hard. Every time I ignored him, he would blow up my phone. He kept trying to convince me to be his friend, and that's why I even let him into my apartment the first few nights after I moved in. He even took my damn cat. I had to literally run away to New York just to get away from him long enough to rent an apartment. I should have never believed his manipulation tactics. However, I cut him off completely, 100% before the week of Halloween. He also held the money he owed me over my head, so I had to be nice to him or he literally wouldn't give me the money I worked for. It's the principle of it. I am not a gold digger, but I was literally there with him filming every single night. This makes him sharing his recordings of
Hey, that's me.
himself in her apartment even more suspects than it already was.
It is weird. It depends on the context. I think that generally speaking, people tend to record their significant other, and put it on the social media because I think it's funny or cool. I think that by itself isn't the most suspicious thing. I think it could be suspicious based on the context. But like recording and putting them up there isn't like the most suspicious thing to me in general. Look at how old this was. This is when I had a bunch of bullshit at the top of my fucking screen. Oh my god, now I just have a thing at the top right. Could be. He has a weird habit of like that one filming of this when they were like together after they broke up. That was weird.
Because he clearly tried to contextualize them.
Obviously, you shouldn't be giving alcohol to minors, of course. I will say, like, maybe I'm a little biased. Like, I know a lot of kids like to drink. Like, when I was young, I would drink when I was like 14, 15, 16 years old. So, like a lot of times, like the young people will want to drink, and then like, but it doesn't make it okay for the older person to buy the drinks. You know what I mean? I know it's shitty.
as if they're made up in some capacity, which evidently was not the case. Unfortunately, despite the receipts having been posted, they were only up on a
Kind of disgust. It's not a cute vid. Yeah, I think that if I'm being charitable, maybe I'm just being too charitable. So you could always take that for, you know, with a grain of salt. To me, it comes off as like a haha, like just a stupid social media video that he's putting up. Hello, I'm from Germany. Can you read my name? What is it? RRoji887?
ephemeral Instagram stories, so the majority of people were still unaware of the allegations or what was supposedly going on behind the scenes, which meant this whole affair was far from over.
Nicole's video, chapter 3. Was that the only time I was in the video, guys? You made me watch this for one little bit where my mustache wasn't shaved very well and it was in my mouth?
As the time passed after their social media drama had reached its peak and it began to die down, Edward and Nicole's respective YouTube channels reflected the fallout. Craniacs, though still retaining a lot of the popularity.
There's a watching people sleep kink, so it's weird he filmed her under the context. I mean, maybe. I don't know if we could go to the point where he likes to watch people sleep kink. Okay, but it's possible, I suppose.
It had garnered on TikTok and YouTube Shorts, started nosediving in views on his main channel as soon as the allegations were made, though Edward continued to post the same exact type of content as before without missing a beat, only now with a noticeably absent Nicole. Meanwhile, Nikki, who used to upload the same genre of videos as Craniacs to her personal channel, stopped doing so completely and took a sharp turn to lifestyle and vlogging with her new boyfriend, but before turning over—
Sorry, I don't mean to laugh, but okay. I thought it said her new boyfriend
stopped doing so completely and took a sharp turn to lifestyle and vlogging with her new boyfriend. But
so when he said that, I thought that like when I saw this shift, this transition, he was like, it's her new boyfriend. I thought that this face was the boyfriend. So it was like a rapid chain of thoughts. It was like, what? Ew, ugly. Oh wait, that's a shirt. So maybe giggle a little bit. Sorry.
But before turning over this new leaf completely, she did one pit stop to put the conflict with Edward behind her once and for all. On November 27th, almost 2 full months after the breakup became public, Nicole posted a video titled, "I Was Groomed, Hidden in Plain Sight," which now has over 1 million views. In it, Nicole gives full disclosure about not just the Craniacs affair, but everything related to it, now in an organized and easily consumable format, with its proceeds being donated to RAIN.org, which is America's largest anti-sexual violence organization. Now, I need to make it clear that everything Nicole says is alleged. I wasn't there, and neither were you, as the only people who truly know what happened are Nicole and Edward. That being said, I will recap the experience that she details in her video. Before even getting to the top—
What the hell is this? What the fuck is this, Turkey Tom? Is this Turkina Tom? Not even a girl's name. Turkina. But it made me giggle still. I don't know. It's just make myself laugh sometimes. Sometimes I'll make a joke and my wife will say, why are you laughing? I'm the only one laughing at my own joke sometimes. And sometimes I crack myself up more than I should. I don't know why this one really got me. Turkey. Wow. I need a minute because I'm actually like really immature right now. Turkey Tina. Oh, that makes more sense. Wow. It's an embarrassing moment for me. Fuck. Turkey isn't a boy's name, so Turkina wouldn't be a girl's name. Turkey Tina makes a lot more sense. Thank you so much. Wow. Incredible. Let's try to move on. Not the giggles. This is an important this is a serious topic, guys. I gotta chill the fuck out here. I gotta chill out. Jesus Christ.
Topic of her abusive relationship with Edward, she mentions that before they even knew each other, she'd already been targeted by other groomers because of her visible vulnerability, being a troubled teenager who attended a continuation school, which, if you don't know, is essentially a school for students who are considered at risk of not graduating. The first grooming incident she experienced was when she was just 13 years old, being targeted by a guy who was at least 21 years of age. Then, when she was 14, a guy who was almost 20 did the same. Nicole explains that, by the time she met Edward, when she was 17, she was already depressed and struggled to keep friendships, meaning—
Yeah, no, that sounds absolutely true. This is another unfortunate. One of the parts too is that, like, you know, for her it was possible, and I'm not saying that it is because I don't remember the specifics, but like there's some younger girls who are like, I like that older guys like me, especially when they may not have the most robust like family structures. And I know that she had like I think her father was absent for some reason. I don't remember what it is. I'm not being judgmental. And then her mother had like her own problems. And then, like, a lot of times it's like, oh, I'm 14. This 21-year-old guy's interested in me. He thinks that I'm really attractive, and like he thinks I'm mature for my age. And it's like it's always the guy's fault. I just want you to understand that I'm not trying to blame her for it, but it's like one of the unfortunate parts. The reason I'm bringing it up is because, like, if you're a young girl or if, you know, or whatever, try to protect yourself, because the bad guys out there aren't going to listen It's hard to like. You can educate men on doing better, but when there's like a person that's actively trying to be bad, like at the end of the day, you kind of have to try to help the potential victim in the situation to escape that situation, right? So.
She was socially vulnerable.
And growing up, I honestly, unfortunately, seemed to be the perfect prey for these types of people.
She also reveals that Edward would have her lie and to go behind her mother's back to see him, saying instead that she was going over to her friends' houses, when in actuality, she was going over to his, where he made a habit of giving her alcohol. Remember all of those instances of her being filmed while asleep? Often, it was the case that Edward had her purposely drink herself until she was unconscious, giving her hard liquor, which she wasn't used to drinking.
That's possible. It's possible that he tried to potentially get her drunk to the point she's falling asleep. It's also possible that like she would get drunk until she fell asleep, and it wasn't necessarily him trying to do something like wholly abusive. It's always wrong to give a minor alcohol, of course, but I think that there's a difference between giving a person alcohol to try to get them to drink until they fall asleep, which you could potentially do anything you wanted with them at that point, which is very fucked up, or versus them drinking a lot and then falling asleep. Both of the things are possible. It's possible that she had struggled with her life, so maybe she like used alcohol to cope in some capacity. It's also possible that he force-fed her alcohol. You know, we don't really know, I guess. But we really don't know. But I just wanted to propose like the potential context there for that.
So during the course of the next few days, after we started talking in April, I basically started lying to my mom and tell her that I was going to like this friend's house or this friend's house for a sleepover every single night. And in reality, I was going out with him and we were drinking together all night. On our first date together, he took me to a park after we went to the liquor store, and he bought a bottle of Peach New Amsterdam and Cactus Cooler.
Mind you, this is their first date, and according to her account, he not only got her blackout drunk, but when she woke up, she found she had puked all over herself and that he had taken off her shirt, proceeding to basically gloat about how he could have taken advantage of the situation, but didn't, as if it was some kind of merit and not basic common decency.
Yeah, that's true.
Especially considering he was the one who made her blackout drunk in the first place. I don't mean to satirize this obviously horrible story, but his immediate next move was nothing other than asking Nicole for an IMDb review of Lil Edward.
So was he deterred by me vomiting all over myself and him almost getting in trouble for buying alcohol for a minor? No, of course not. In fact, he began texting me, asking me if I thought that his dick was big or not.
Oh, yeah, yesterday, that wasn't super big yesterday, but every fucking girl I can't ever take little Edward. Like, I always have to go half. I can't go full, and my ex would take it like a champ. But yeah, I have women tell me that. What? Yeah, I keep watching that video. It makes me sad, too. What are we talking about? I've only had 2 boyfriends. What the fuck? Well, he comes out of like nowhere with his penis.
Because apparently, before I had completely blacked out, I had been touching his dick.
Yet another highlight of Edward and Nicole's early dating was that, while Nicole was passed out drunk over at his house, he would leave her alone sleeping on his bed, while he'd go out and meet up with his other girlfriend, who was an adult, and would continue to see him, despite having full knowledge that he was seeing a minor on the side. At one point, even trying to fight Nicole for him.
And not only knew that I was 17, was weirdly jealous of me, and even tried to fight me one time at the Lakewood Mall. This girl had the audacity to message me today and act like she didn't do all that. Like, this was a grown woman that not only knew that her ex was dating a minor, but was also happily willing to have sex with him.
To add to the list of people who were aware of what was happening but allowed it to go on was Edward's family. When she was still a minor and her mom moved to Texas, leaving her behind, she went to live in Edward's house, together with his entire family, who didn't mind.
I just want to be like explicitly clear, because like, yeah, his family thought it was appropriate. Her family did as well, because like the mom left her to stay there. I don't believe that she was just like, okay, bye guys, and you do whatever you want. I'm pretty sure she left knowing she was staying there. That doesn't make it okay. All I'm trying to say is it's not just like Edward and his family. Like her family, I would say, failed her in that capacity as well. It's just like a lot of systematic failures. All I'm trying to communicate is I don't think that a lot of people didn't realize that it was inappropriate, even if it is inappropriate, so that's all I'm trying to say.
That he was seeing a minor per se, but that it might affect them negatively for legal reasons.
You knew I
if he got arrested, who gives a shit? Like, good. I mean,
was 17. In fact, she knew I was 17 to the point at which when I initially moved in, she was pissed. Why would she be pissed? Because she knew I was an underage minor.
Yeah, true. But it's also like sad too, because like I don't think that she really had anywhere else to go. You know what I mean? Like, this is where the fucked up scenario is like, I don't think that she had anywhere else to live. And so she went and lived with Edward. I'm not saying, like, you know what I mean? Like, it's kind of, I don't think that the family took her in like some kind of a negative way. They think it was like, oh, this girl's like really struggling. Let's try to help her out kind of a thing, you know?
Not just for moral reasons, but for legal reasons, this was all bad.
It was during this time that Edward would provide for her, as he would call it, which actually meant giving her toothpaste and a steady supply of Taco Bell, perhaps explaining his incessant
what else do you need, am I right?
tweets about his bowel movements, along with a hefty daily intake of alcohol, which effectively made her an alcoholic. For these oh-so-charitable gifts, he would tell her she should be grateful and not complain about his actions towards her. Eventually, she did get a job and moved out of his house and in with her sister, but by the time this happened, it was
she was able to move in because they were paying rent together. It was like a 50-50 thing.
Far too late, as she was already wrapped completely around his finger. She couldn't even go to sleep before he did without being accused of cheating, which was particularly stressful since Edward usually went to sleep at 4 a.m.
I think that one of the patterns that kept happening, I'm not sure if he's going to bring this up, is that she would leave him. Like she would be done with him and she would leave him. And then like he would just like cry and then convince her to go back with him. It was like, oh, you know, crying and like, I need you kind of stuff. And then again, there was that one time that he tried to get her pregnant to try to keep her to stay with her. That was really fucked up. But like, she would keep leaving. She'd be like, okay, I'm done with this guy. And then she would like, he'd be like, no, please stay with me. And she'd be like, all right, whatever, I'll give you another chance. And then like the cycle would repeat.
And Nicole had to wake up early to attend her job. Along with this, she couldn't be anywhere other men might be, which made it extremely difficult to have friends outside of the relationship. It got to the point where, even though she hadn't cheated on him, she began doubting herself, wondering if she actually did during some kind of Walter White fugue state.
It was because of situations like this that I literally
That Walter White fugue state was fake. That was a fake fugue state.
started doubting my own reality. I started questioning myself. I was like, did I cheat on him? Even knowing that I had not cheated on him, I questioned myself, did I? Like, what have I done wrong? Like, it seriously felt like reality based on how much anger and force he was putting behind his words.
The red flags were simply piling up on top of each other. What's interesting to remember is that, despite his extreme paranoia about her cheating on him, he would have no problem during the Craniacs era plastering the video's thumbnails with sexually exploitative pictures of her. But hey, no problem during the Craniacs era plastering the video's his extreme paranoia about her cheating on him, he would have no problem during the Craniacs era plastering the video's thumbnails with sexually exploitative pictures of her. But hey, I guess it's okay.
Sure, yeah, okay.
Okay, if the only people your girlfriend is being sexualized by are strangers on the internet.
Blah 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 blah. Yeah, okay.
At age 19, Edward's worst fears came true as Nicole began developing feelings for another guy.
I'm just trying to like fucking shift this in my head for a second because I know she's like 23 now. That video was from 3 years ago. The reason I wanted to like bring this up is only because like, okay, so like the thumbnails would be where she was being like in like a kind of a suggestive state. But it seems like most of those thumbnails happened when she was like an adult. She was in a relationship with him. I'm not saying that he was a great guy. He seems to be a piece of shit. But like, unless he was like, let's make these photos of you or I'll like hurt you in some capacity, I think it's reasonable to assert that she consented to those photos being put up. Right? Like, I don't want to fully lean into like, oh my God, he was like just because he's a manipulative person, he seems to be a shitty person. Doesn't mean that every aspect of like everything that ever happened was like a manipulative thing and that she's always like, all I'm trying to say is it's possible that she consented to those pictures being put up as well. I'm not saying, you know, that it doesn't mean that he put her in a state of like fear if she didn't allow him to put those up. That's all I'm bringing up. I'm not saying that she definitely did consent to them, but it's also, you know, it doesn't mean that everything was like some kind of like a potential manipulative or abusive tactic when they did something. It's quite possible that both of them wanted the channel to succeed and they both knew that putting up some suggestive photos of her would bring in some more clicks. So they were both like, yeah, let's do it because we're both making money off of this, right? That's all I'm trying to say.
And when she told him this, he began doing what psychologists call love bombing, which is when a narcissist overwhelms someone with compliments and displays of affection in order to guilt trip them and prevents them from doing what the narcissist does not want them to do.
He does seem to, Jesus, the fuck? Sorry, it's like a scary picture. Again, I think he did that one time, well, multiple times when they try to break up.
If the victim goes on to try and exact some sort of justice from their situation, they're the ones who look cruel or insensitive, and not the narcissist. In any event, I will stave off a number of details here, but they go on to have sex, and Edward does a kind of what is called stealthing, reproductive coercion, or gray rape, meaning he attempted to impregnate her without her consent. This is not only obviously a terrible thing to do to someone, but something that will seemingly become very illegal soon. But according to him, he did this because he loved her.
There was no
Was it not illegal then?
mistakes being made. He every single time pulled out without mistake in order to not get me pregnant, of course. It was just a procedure. There was never any close calls, no mistake whatsoever. This time, he came inside me intentionally. And I think he did this because I was breaking up with him. And
I'm trying to see something. I'm just being semantical at this point. Because I don't think that they were, I think that she, okay.
no mistake, pregnant, of course. It was just a procedure. There was never any close calls, no mistake whatsoever. This time, there was no mistakes being made. He, every single time, pulled out without mistake.
The only reason I'm being like it's semantical to the point where it's probably not necessary, but like we called it stealthing. I think stealthing is technically when you remove a condom from somebody. It sounded like she said that he would always routinely pull out. This time he didn't. That's still wrong. I just don't know what that would be called. I mean, I would imagine it was some form of like, would it still be some form of sexual assault? I mean, if the general understanding was that they would come in her without he wouldn't come, he would pull out. And this time he didn't. It seems very intentional. I just don't know exactly what you'd call it. I'm sorry, I'm probably being like too semantical, but
In order to not get me pregnant, of course. It was just a procedure. There was never any close calls, no mistake whatsoever. This time, he came inside me intentionally. And I think he did this because I was breaking up with him. And he knew that he needed to do something to get me to stay.
Though it was very clear this had greatly
I'm trying to think because like for some reason when I watched it the first time, I thought that was like more explicitly done, but it's her assuming that that might have happened because of that. I mean, it's a reasonable assumption. I just thought it was more explicit than that. Like I thought he had admitted it or something in a text.
Greatly disturbed
maybe he didn't. Okay.
and upset Nikki, Edward would not let up on the love bombing, taking her on a spontaneous trip to Las Vegas to see what would happen, which, according to Nicole, resulted in a series of very loud and public fights. Technically, this was the first time they'd broken up, but due to Edward's antics, Nicole began blaming herself and ended up not following through. Having lost the will to end the relationship, they'd return from Las Vegas to continue producing content for the Arcade Craniacs channel, though Edward would continue to ignore any of her video ideas, and even after the channel started making enough money that she no longer had to work, Edward ensured that she'd keep working at Target to help teach her a lesson about real work. Again, this is the guy that runs away from people wearing Among Us costumes.
Kiss this ass, alright? Kiss this booty. Yeah, you like that, huh? That's what happens when KJ and Edward find you. You have to kiss this ass.
Once the switch to 3 a.m. content happened and there was a ramp up in money, the AdSense was directly linked to his bank account. And whenever Nicole would bring up the topic of her receiving a paycheck of some sort, he would become irate, claiming that she was being materialistic, which she later echoed after they broke up for good. Her insistence paid off though, as she did start getting paid eventually. 1 week before their new Chuck E. Cheese content went extremely viral all over social media, but particularly TikTok, Nicole tried once again to break up with him. And again, she failed. This is ironic considering that people who commented on their social media posts all collectively guffawed at how much they were couple goals. In order to promote and maintain this public image of a healthy relationship, Edward had Nicole go through all of her Instagram posts and get rid of anything from before she was 18 that showed them together. That is, with one exception, intentionally on Nicole's part, much to Edward's chagrin. When someone noticed this proof of her being a minor when Edward began dating her and posted a TikTok about it, he got very angry and had her post that comment disproving it. Regardless of this effort to keep up appearances, the dam was beginning to show cracks. Fortunately for archival purposes, those posts that Edward didn't want people to see had been saved, meaning that Nicole successfully restored them once she chose to speak out on it.
And when he found out about this, he was pissed and he forced me to leave a comment saying that, no, this isn't true, this is a lie, which basically is honestly dumb that anybody even uses that comment as proof, because literally the whole TikTok is proof, irrefutably so, that we at the very least knew each other or were flirting or something when I was a minor.
In an
There's just some things that I didn't notice, I guess, the first time around. Hold on.
That comment that, no, this
didn't have appearance.
When a girl comments on your boyfriend's picture, y'all, I had a boyfriend before I met Edward. We met when I was 18. I don't appreciate these. I'm just trying to, this is something that I didn't really
dam was beginning
pick up on. Comments straight up making things up about me.
To show cracks. Fortunately for archival purposes, those posts that Edward didn't want people to see had been saved, meaning that Nicole successfully restored them once she chose to speak out on it.
And when he found out about this, he was pissed and he forced me to leave a comment saying that, no, this isn't true, this is a lie, which basically is honestly dumb that anybody even uses that comment as proof, because literally the whole TikTok is proof, irrefutably so, that we at the very least knew each other or were flirting or something when I was a minor.
Okay, so when I first went through this situation, I was under the impression that they had started dating when she was 17, he was 23. But that kind of seems to me that they maybe just kind of started to get in acquaintance with each other when they were 17 and 23. And they didn't necessarily escalate till she was 18. I know it doesn't change a whole lot, but again, that doesn't make it grooming just because he knew her when she was 17. And again, like, grooming is a very intentional, methodical thing. So I wonder, like, did they actually start a relationship before that when she was 17? Or did they just start kind of like talking a little bit here and there in like a more friendly context? Like, what's this? How did they meet? Was that ever explicitly said, like, where and how they met? Like, did they meet through friends and they just started kind of like being friendly? Or what is the specifics of like their relationship when it first started? Because like when you throw around grooming is like a very heavy accusation. That you know what I mean? So like these are all the questions that kind of need to be asked, obviously. Yeah. Like, how did they start meeting? I mean, they were local, so like, was it they had like a mutual friend or something? I'm confused a little bit too. It seems like we're missing like a little bit of context of like how they met and what their relationship was at first. Because now I'm thinking, and like, I don't know, like when they first started getting together and drinking, were they actually in like any dating type of scenario? Or was it that they were hanging out? I don't know. It's just a lot up in the air. They definitely knew each other. There's just a lot like up in the air.
An unknowingly serendipitous act, Edward introduced Nicole to Anu, the friend she would eventually move out to New York with in order to get away with him. Interestingly enough, he only did this because he didn't want to have to put in the effort of giving her relationship advice and found her annoying, so he referred her to Nicole, who ended up getting relationship advice from her. After making her plans with Anu to go on their trip to New York, Nicole tried quitting the channel, to the mysterious reply from Edward that the channel was unquittable. However, he did allow her to take a break, as long as it was temporary. During this uneasy period, Nicole would go on to try to break up with Edward 4 times, all to no avail, because he would not only beg and plead for her not to do it, but make it as difficult as possible for it to happen by watching her every move. However, reconciliation at this point was completely impossible, since, according to Nicole, a situation of domestic violence had taken place.
I told him, hey, I don't want to be with you because you groomed me, you sexually assaulted me, you took advantage of me, you used me, and
I guess the coming inside of her would that be what she was referring to with sexual assault?
And also, I don't want to be with anybody who tried to choke me out.
As Nicole recounts it, in one of their heated arguments, he would punch her in the arm several times, to the point where it was black and blue, the way it would remain for several weeks, and proceed to choke her against the wall. To add insult to injury, he would get frustrated in the following—
Yeah, that was really shitty. From what I remember, and again, I could be wrong about this, it's been a while since I revisited it, that it seemed to be they seemed to go back and forth physically in some capacity. I'm not saying that like it's okay. I could be a little, I remember something like that. Obviously, it's really shitty if he was putting his hands on her.
recording sessions when, during the taking of the thumbnail image, she'd be unable to—
Like I said, you'd have to go rewatch the video that I made like a year ago.
show her cleavage because, without her sleeved jacket on, the bruises when, during the taking of the thumbnail image, she'd be unable to show her cleavage because, without her sleeved jacket on, the bruises would be visible.
He punched me a bunch of times in the arm so hard that it literally turned black and blue. Like, for several weeks, my arm was black and blue, and he grabbed me by my throat and shoved my head against the wall of our apartment and threatened to hit me again.
His justification for having hit her was that, during another fight of theirs, when he was speeding and driving under the influence simultaneously, suggesting that he'd drive off a cliff, while intermittently hitting himself in the head and hitting the pizza box she had on her lap while yelling, "Hit me," she hit him in the leg. Obviously, getting physically violent in a relationship is always a bad thing no matter who's doing it, but I have a sneaking suspicion that the fact that he's 30 pounds heavier than her and that he actually tried to choke her makes his aggression at least a little more extreme. But what do I know? Another of Edward's go-to strategies to prevent the oncoming breakup was to threaten to commit suicide, though he would give up pretty easily when called on his bluff.
Yeah, always call someone on their bluff. They're like, "I'm gonna kill myself if we break up." Just let them do it. Be like, boom, hit a whip like a whoa, and just like dip out.
He also threatened to kill himself multiple times during these times when I was breaking up with him. One time in particular...
Yeah, next to that too. Like, I was like, oh, I was getting to a point where I wanted to break up, and she's like, "If we break up, I'll kill myself." Like, Jesus Christ.
He killed himself and walked over to the kitchen to get a kitchen knife and held it to his wrist. And I said, "You're not gonna do that. You're scared of death." And I was right. He didn't do it.
The day before Nicole's trip to New York, she would tell him that she'd already partially signed papers to move into a new apartment, which prompted him to wait for her to sleep and start rapidly going through her phone. He would find Nicole's DM conversations with Anu and proceed to blame her for everything that led to the breakup. That is, while he would be screaming, throwing stuff around, threatening to kill himself, and at one point, even pretending to have a heart attack to try and keep Nicole from leaving him. Remind you of anything?
You know what I mean? Okay. I'll get a heart attack. Get it? Oh, no. I'm not getting a heart attack, just my hat.
Eventually, when this tactic failed, he would just move on from it and pretend that nothing happened. His Hail Mary attempt was to physically block her exit, holding her by her wrist to stop her from leaving, which, too, failed, as Nicole's sister was waiting outside to drive her to the airport. He would continue to guilt trip her and blow up her phone with private messages, and though she would oblige him until he finally sent her the check for the work on the Craniacs channel, when Nicole started dating her new boyfriend, Matt, communications between them ceased entirely. Though he would try to reach even her friends and family members to try and get her to talk to him, eventually the situation settled. Edward posted to his Instagram saying,
Yeah. Okay, it's a little bit more. Yeah, it's a lot of fucked up shit. I mean, I wonder how much of it is true and how much of it is exaggeration. Like, truly, that's one of the fucked up parts about it. And unless he comes forward with, like, his perspective, like, there's no way to kind of suss out the middle of that, you know? That's the whole thing with, like, online accusations. Like, you don't really know, and you don't really know anything. One person could be saying something that's completely false, could be completely true. But we really just don't know about, like, the specifics in that situation.
saying, I take these accusations very seriously. I will be contacting the proper channels and will return with a response very soon. I ask that the fans please be patient at this time as I sort this matter legally. Please give me time and I will respond properly and with legal representation. Thank you. A video was posted to the Arcade Craniacs second channel called My Response, though it is now private and only visible through people's reposts and reactions to it. In it, he
that's probably mine. Look, he like cuts it out. I'm like right there. You could see some of my stuffed animals.
Reiterates that he will be pursuing these matters legally, suggesting some kind of defamation lawsuit, while reassuring his viewers that he will continue posting videos regularly.
At the end of the day, this is not...
Why'd you put me in there? Get me the fuck out of there, bro. Come on, bro. I'm ugly as shit.
...a game, okay? We just can't go off of he said, she said type stuff. As of now, I am no longer going to be talking about this on the internet because this is something that needs to be sorted out privately.
Yeah,
I do plan to address the allegations against me after speaking to my lawyer.
However, it's extremely unlikely that this will ever make it out of the internet, as even if he were to try and disprove any single one of Nikki's claims, the fact of the matter is he started dating her when she was a minor. So if any of this ever actually went to court, he would be setting himself up to instantly become the defendant. If we are to believe that,
yeah, maybe. Who cares if he goes to fucking jail for that?
At least that video where Edward...
I mean, I don't mean that in like he shouldn't. I'm just saying like, yeah, if he goes to jail, he goes to jail. Like, fuck him.
...was crying for her was remotely genuine, then he did get his wish, as the Craniacs channel has seriously dwindled in views, while all of Nikki's videos gained popularity pretty linearly. After her having left the channel, she was replaced with two of Edward's friends, one of which is usually seen wearing a cheap Halloween demon mask.
You think he added me to get more engagement? I'm pretty sure I'm pretty sure like I was the only one who reacted to his video, so that's the only reason it was left. So he had no choice but to use my video.
Though still getting good amounts of views on its shorts here and there, and still collaborating with Lissy, the channel screeched to a halt as the main videos are struggling to even get 100,000 views. A mere shadow of the Craniacs' past.
Shit, I'll take 25,000 views a video.
Audience reach. The current viewership most likely consisting of kids that were too young to understand what happened between Edward and Nicole. With this in mind...
Are you asking me a serious question? Papa, I met my girlfriend at 20 and she is 17, but we were oblivious. 2017 is fine. Like... Nah, it's fine.
The future of Arcade Craniacs is very uncertain, if it'll have any future at all.
Just so many freaking memories, man. It was
like it's legal in like every state with Romeo and Juliet laws, and I think the only thing you have to be careful of is sending pictures to each other on the internet or like on your phone, because that could be considered like distributing child pornography. Or if you're in California, like you can't sleep together. But 1720 is like morally fine.
So cool, man. So cool, and just really sad, man, that you know. Chuck E. Cheese itself, the whole corporation, man.
I've been Turkey Tom. Thanks for watching, and until next time, leave me alone.
Okay. Yeah. All right, cool. Good video. Only really that good because I was in it, obviously. Just kidding. All right. Oh, I'm not subscribed to Turkey Tom. I didn't even realize that. I watched so many of his videos, so I'll give him a like and everything. All right, let me go potty. I'll be right back. Look, he didn't get a lot of likes on this video. I think it was because I was in it. Okay. I'm gonna go potty. I'm gonna go pee really quick. Go pee really quick, and then we'll figure out what else we're gonna do. Worky Wom. What are we talking about in the chat here? Is there still ways at TikToks? Yeah, you can send it through the Discord. There's a thing called in the Discord, which is in the description of the live. There's a thing called like meta discussions or something, and then there's a suggestions tab. I had to react to another turkey time. Maybe another time. I wouldn't do that today. Today would be a little too much. Plus, I'm in like a less serious mood today. We did a little bit of a serious content, and I didn't really want to with that video. It was a good video. I'm just not like super. So I want to do this eventually, but I'm not in the mood. I think I know people really want me to watch this this thing. The Primal Iceberg. How bad do you guys want me to watch? And hey everyone, dude, this. Sorry, how badly do we want to watch this? I just crack him up. Oh. Seems like people, you know what? I've been putting it off for a long time. I have been putting it off for quite a while. Okay. No, wait, this is 101. No, don't open that up. And I said I wouldn't call, but I lost all control, and I need you now. It's 1:15. I'm all alone and I need you now. What is anti-aliasing? Am I right, guys? What is an anti-alias? Does that mean that you can only have one name? No aliases, sir. Such a funny. Boom. Look at this. Dino Diego. I thought it said Dino Dongo when I first looked at it because I don't really understand how words or how to extrapolate them or interpret them properly because I'm a child. Anyway, guys, I promised this a while ago. I love the show called Primal. Genndy, is it Genndy Tartakovsky's Primal? Somebody sent me an Iceberg a while ago. So I'm looking forward to the Iceberg. We just never really got to it, but let's get to it now, bro. Let's get to it now, right now. Let's get to it right now. Let's get to it right now. Let's do this right now. Right now. While we play World of Warcraft. Going pretty hard right now, if you ask me. Is it low?
Ever since my last iceberg video, people have been wanting me to cover different sorts of dinosaur-related icebergs, mainly ones revolving around walking with dinosaurs or carnivores dinosaurs.
Bro, do the dinosaur icebergs that apparently dinosaurs look like chickens. It's a real thing. Dinosaurs apparently used to look like chickens. They had feathers and whatnot. They didn't actually look like dinosaurs. Crazy, right?
But ever since the iceberg trend really gained traction, I have been waiting patiently for someone to make an iceberg on Genndy Tartakovsky's Primal. Yeah. If you don't know what Primal is, it's an animated show that was aired on Adult Swim revolving around a caveman named Spear and a
It's such a good show. Bro, I have to tell you, like, it's such a good show. I loved it, and it's one of those shows where, like, you can't look at your phone while you watch it. But it makes you not want to look at your phone because the whole storytelling is through what happens in the show, like what's going on. It's about what's going on. You have to pay attention to all the context. Like I remember times there were a few times where I would put my phone down, or I'd take my phone to my face for like 30 seconds. I'm like, I missed everything that was happening because everything is done visually, like every piece of the story. It does a really good job of not being full of like a bunch of filler. Pretty much everything in the story is very contextually necessary, and they fill out the time really well. Whereas, like, you know, a lot of other shows, especially animes, will show you like, you know, like some weird walking animation or something for no reason.
tyrannosaur named Fang, who go on adventures and fights different things in the brutal world that it's set in. There are tons of spoilers in this video, so if you're interested in the show, then maybe don't watch this video first.
Yeah,
Just go watch the show instead. Seriously, I highly recommend it. It's actually a really good show. Anyways, after months and months of waiting for an iceberg on this show, it never happened. So I figured if no one else was going to do this, then it was up to me to do it for them. But I needed some help with this, so I decided to reel in my aquatic friend Pish, who also happens to be a Primal enthusiast, to help me set up this iceberg, and after a few hours of dicking around, getting distracted, and literally getting nothing done, we got started on the iceberg. And after a couple of more hours, this was the outcome. Now before we go any further, here's a bit of context for those of you who aren't familiar with how iceberg videos work. Iceberg charts are a recent trend in which entries of a specific topic, like video games or movie franchises for example, are taken and put in a list that begins with the most well-known or common things around said topic, and as you go down that list, these entries begin
Yeah, there was one point that I got like really wrong, and hopefully he'll bring it up. There was a point towards the end, again, like this is your last, call. If you want to watch the show, like you should kind of dip off, but you won't, like, so that you can kind of watch it in its glory. But there was one point where like he fights like a Viking, and the Viking ends up dying, and after it dies, he gets like raised to Valhalla, and it was a really crazy moment. But then he gets sucked down into like hell in some capacity, and I was like, oh, it seems like the hell demon wanted to suck him down specifically so that he could like kill the primal guy, Fang and Spear. And I was like, oh, this is stupid, because the show came off to me as some people experiencing the world, whereas it kind of changed it to like the world actively against them. But I got it wrong. Apparently that was like some kind of like a god of vengeance in like the Nordic whatever, and I just got it wrong. And that was like a really interesting thing. Hopefully they go through it so I have like a better understanding of it, and it can be better communicated, because I'm obviously an idiot.
More obscure, strange, and even creepy depending on the topic you're covering. There are several different versions of these icebergs all around the internet that literally cover anything you can think of. There's even one that literally revolves around fruit. This is a trend that I've grown very interested in, so much so I ended up making a video on an iceberg that someone had made about Jurassic Park. But unlike that video, the iceberg chart that will be featured today is one that we created on our own. And if you don't know about Primal all that much, it's a rather minimal show, and because of that, a lot of the entries here are things like behind the scenes information, fan theories, random pieces of trivia about the show, and so on. With these entries included, it not only lets us talk about the lesser known things about Primal, but also doesn't make the iceberg feel so empty. Of course, there may be debate as to the placement of the entries we decided upon the iceberg, and whether or not they should be on the iceberg at all. Please keep in mind that the decision for the placement of the entries and the decision to add certain entries within the iceberg are simply decisions we made based on our own personal opinions. We spent a long time deciding where they should be placed, and also wanted to include stuff we wanted to talk about. If you want to debate either of these two things in a civil fashion in the comments below, that's perfectly fine with us. Besides that, fucking deal with it. Anyways, let's get into the video.
All right, tier 1, baby.
The first thing we have on our list is the show's first real enemy to our main characters. The trio of Red Rexes first appear in the beginning of the first episode and are responsible for the death of Spear's family. After collecting food for his family, Spear makes his way back home only to hear their screams from a distance. He tries to get to them as quickly as he can, but right as he gets there, he witnesses the pack brutally devouring his whole family. We see the pack again when they try to attack Fang and her offspring, but with the help of Spear, the two manage to kill the entire pack and prevent the offsprings from being eaten by them. But then the Alpha Rex shows up and devours the baby Rexes.
Bro, this was such a horrible moment in this show. It made me so upset when this happened.
Super chatted $9.99.
Hey, thank you so much for the $10.
Hi Papa Gut, I'm so happy to catch your live. Hope you and Mama Gut are having a good day.
Sorry, I just need to sneeze. Yes, thank you so much. Sorry about that. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the donation. I appreciate that. What was really interesting at the end of this episode, after this happens, like once they, like the way that they unite was like so interesting and unique to me. Because at the end of the episode, like, he helps save the kids, but then the kids end up getting eaten, the dinosaur babies. But then at the end of the episode, like, there's this really interesting moment of, apprehensiveness from Spear, which is the caveman guy, obviously. Where, like, he wants to befriend Fang, because Fang is the one that's, like, introducing the friendship, basically. Like, let's kind of, like, hang out together, Let's trauma bond. And he's, like, scared of it. And I remember thinking, like, if this was 15 years ago when I was a kid, I'd look at this and go like, trust the dinosaur. But for some reason, like maybe it's because I was older, or maybe the show did a better job of communicating that this was an animal. You know, it was like I would be so terrified even after that experience to like befriend a fucking dinosaur. You know what I mean? It was such an interesting experience that I can't communicate unless you watch it yourself.
After more fighting though, Spear and Fang do eventually take her down as well. The main features from the T-Rex pack, besides their red color schemes, are the horns that differentiates each individual Rex. The pack themselves are incredibly hostile and seem to just attack, kill, and eat anything that they come across. What differentiates the pack from the Alpha Rex, besides her own uniquely shaped horn, is her massive size. Aside from these features though, there doesn't seem to be anything too unique about these guys. That being said, they were a great way to introduce the audience to the kind of brutality that we would see in the rest of the show. The snakes are the main enemies in the second episode of the season, but in many people's opinions, it's one of the more lackluster ones.
Absolutely not. The episode itself maybe is a little lackluster, but one of the awesome parts of this episode that I loved is that it actually sets up for like genuine and unique character building between Spear and Fang. Like it shows some of the versatility for Spear and like what he brings to the table, even though he's not physically as strong or as capable necessarily as a fucking literal bloodthirsty dinosaur, but at the same time it brings like a lot of emotions to Fang, because in a follow-up episode you see that Fang, the dinosaur, sorry I have to differentiate for myself almost, has PTSD from the experience, where like she sees a worm because it's a girl dinosaur and she's like afraid because she remembers the snakes. And it was like such an interesting character building situation. Like it was an incredible, like if you watch it like properly and you really absorb as much as you can from the episode, even that lackluster episode will show a lot to you in the way of context.
In most of these episodes, you'll notice that the main enemies are unique, or have unique features, or have specific motivations for wanting to kill Spear and Fang. But in the second episode, the snakes are just kind of there. While Spear and Fang try to overcome certain obstacles of their newfound friendship, they run into an ocean of snakes, and when a flood eventually engulfs the area, including our two characters, they then have to kill off a mega snake, which ends up getting killed off screen, so nothing too exciting there. The most I could say about the snakes that might even be remotely interesting is that I think they're supposed to be titanic boas, but besides that, there's not much to say about it.
I like that episode. That was decent. I kind of disagree with that. Wild dogs.
Next up, let's talk about another group of antagonists that appeared in episode 1
handsome
of the second part of the first
voice.
season, The Scent of Prey. I'm of course referring to the wild dogs who tried to sink their teeth into both Spear and an injured Fang through.
This is, I have to say, this episode was probably my favorite collection of 2 episodes. If you guys have been on TikTok, you've probably seen the episode where like there's a bunch of monkeys fighting Fang and Spear in some capacity. At the end of that episode, Spear ends up like, you know, drinking some kind of like, it was crazy. Watch the episode. Crazy. He drinks some kind of crazy serum. And it makes him like super temporarily strong. It was fucking crazy. It introduced like some like a religious or spiritual aspects. It was kind of crazy. But he like protects Fang and more like character development. It was incredible. And at the end of it, like the next episode is him like walking, you know, protecting her, the dinosaur, from like vultures. It was a really interesting episode. And then moving on to protect them from dogs, and then like it was just an incredible episode that showed like a lot of companionship that I really like liked and identified with
throughout the course of the episode. And while the pack of canines don't seem to have much going in terms of iconicness or impact, there's a lot more to them than meets the eye.
Yeah.
First up, the wild dogs' designs. Now at first glance there isn't anything too special here, with simple grays, browns, and blacks making up their palettes, with some spooky blood red eyes to top it off. The designers were clearly inspired by African wild dogs, also called painted wolves, and this in turn made me think of these creatures called
You know what's weird? I know this is like a weird thought. I remember watching a nature show a while ago, and like what was nuts is that like I never thought about this, but in the wild, cats are fucking more dominant than dogs. Like the cats are huge fucking lions and tigers. Dogs are just kind of like a little bit bigger dogs. But in like our households, dogs would dominate. I know that's like the most fucking dumb thing I've ever said, but it's kind of interesting if you don't think about it too much.
Game Far Cry Primal. The game is set in 10,000 BC and also features a caveman who similarly has animal companions and likes to get into brutal bloody fights a lot of the time. Now the dhulls, as they're called in the game, also look just like African wild dogs and hunt in large packs. They are even confirmed to be based on the extinct subgenus of canine Xenocion. I know that it's a bit of a stretch to say that the wild dogs in Primal are based off the dhulls from Far Cry, but you have to admit the resemblance is there. Moving on from the design aspect, there was also originally going to be an additional scene featuring the dogs that ended up being cut in The Scent of Prey. However, we do have access to how the scene would have played out via the animatic pitch of the episode. The scene would have shown 3 wild dogs entering the cave as Spear originally left the entrance open, allowing them to attempt an attack on Fang. This would result in one of the dogs being killed by Spear, who would do what he does best by impaling it with his weapon of the same name. The scene would end with the partners in crime enjoying some meat from the dog's carcass. We obviously don't know why this scene was cut from the episode, but I think it would have been a good scene to show the bond our 2 main characters have made over the course of the show. So yeah, in summary, there's a lot more.
I think that they did that accurately. I think that they showed that bond pretty well. So
more to the wild dogs than you might have expected, and I even think it would be cool if they see a return to the show sometime in the future, as they're one of the only groups of antagonists to survive a battle against Spear and Fang and live to tell the tale. Super interesting nonetheless. The Mammoth Matriarch is one of the most interesting antagonists we've gotten throughout the course of the show. Spear and Fang encounter the Matriarch and her herd in the episode A Cold Death as they attempt to take revenge on the pair.
I thought it was a patriot. Well, okay.
In favor of their fallen brethren. But the reason why the Mammoth Matriarch is so interesting is because of the resolution at the end. Unlike every other episode where we...
Well, yeah, it was very interesting because it showed like this potential spiritual side to it showed a potential spiritual side to animals. It was like the first time I've ever considered that there could have possibly been, like, we're all animals, and like maybe there is some kind of spiritual aspect or nature, because the animals, it looked like they were walking to some kind of an elephant graveyard in some capacity, right? It looked like they were walking to some elephant graveyard in some capacity. And at the end, the mammoth died. Like, it struggles at the beginning and it dies towards at the end. But when they went to venture for it, they just wanted like the tusk in some kind of spiritual thing. So it introduced the concept that there could be some kind of like interesting like spiritual nature to animals in some capacity, which was really interesting.
We get our main characters disposing of a threat either by spearing it, biting it in half, spearing it, beating it to a pulp, spearing it, burning it alive, spearing it. The episode ends with Spear
Mahogany
offering the
XD super chatted $4.99. Been following since May last year.
Hey, thank you so much.
How are you liking it so far? Big ups, Papa. Folded hands.
I like YouTube a lot. Thank you so much.
Early Mammoth's tusk to the matriarch is a show of respect and gratitude, and also as a way to bail them out of what might have been a fatal confrontation. And the episode actually...
This episode actually did like a really good job of like differentiating Fang and Spear, like subtly and slowly. This was like one of the things that happened. Because they show that Fang doesn't care about like any type of spiritual nature. So it was like interesting that, you know, they would show some animals might have some kind of like... you know, spiritual nature, but Fang didn't give a shit, but like Spear did, and they were completely losing that fight until he gave up that tusk out of like that show of respect and whatnot. And it was like another instance of showing the separation between the two of them.
Ends with the matriarch acknowledging this act and leaving the two in peace, only to return to a vast mammoth graveyard with the tusk. And that's why this episode is so interesting. It's one of the only ones that doesn't end in more blood being spilled. I also think the fact that the episode revolved around the mammoths and a caveman coming to a peaceful resolution is a big deal and a good message. After all, we were the ones who drove these amazing creatures to extinction in the first place, and they should deserve our respect.
Fuck extinction, dude. Hey, listen, it's fucked up, but like back then I feel like extinction didn't matter as much as now. Like now we take active roles in like destroying environments and whatnot. Back then we were just animals, and like unfortunately, whether you want to hear this or not, extinction is like kind of a natural cycle of life. It's like when one species can't hang, they kind of pass away. Nowadays it's different because we have like so much control over the world. Back then we didn't really have a ton of control over the world in the same profound way. So April's Fool's
On April
episode.
1st of
What was that?
2020, a Primal episode had been aired completely out of nowhere. For context, back in October 2019, Primal had aired 5 episodes, with the 5th one ending on a massive cliffhanger.
Interesting, because I saw the zombie episode and I was like, this one was very bizarre. First of all, the show did a really good job at presenting an idea that I didn't like and then making me like it. That was one of the things I respected a lot about the show, was that it would take a lot of risks, which is something that I really respect about shows. There was an episode that I hated, by the way, but I liked it because they took so much of a risk. And this thing is just stuck on a wall. For shame, brother. And this one was one of them, but I ended up liking it at the end. It was a zombie episode. I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. Why are there zombies? This is getting weird. By the end of it, I'm like, wow, this was actually really cool. They did it really well. But they never really talked about it a lot. And then also, when the first zombie bit the big brontosaurus, I guess it was, he turned into a zombie. But then after this guy bit other people or other dinosaurs, they didn't turn. It was weird, but it was a good episode.
Without going on too much of a tangent as to what happens in that episode, it ends with Fang unconscious and presumably near death, with Spear desperately trying to wake her up. It's an extremely emotional scene, and it ends before we could get a definitive answer on Fang's critical states. Then the show went on a 1-year hiatus, with 5 more episodes being planned for the rest of the season to air a year later.
Oh, that makes sense. So that was like the big thing I saw on TikTok, what I was explaining before, with like he drinks the serum and he fights all those monkeys and shit. So then they went on a vacation, and they came back with that April Fool's episode, almost Halloween. Interesting. So that makes it more impactful. I watched all of it in a burst. I watched like everything in a burst, so it didn't come off the same to me. That impact wasn't there. I wasn't like waiting for it. I just watched it all towards the end. both seasons, which were good.
In October of 2020. So from there, it was a waiting game to see whether or not Fang managed to pull through. But all of a sudden, fans had been given an unexpected but exciting surprise, and that came in the form of a random episode of Primal that aired on April 1st of 2020. At first, some thought that this was the show's official return, but there was a problem. Technically, this is the 6th chronological episode of Primal in
Interesting. I think when I watched it, they played it after the 2-parter. So they knew that they kind of that wasn't like in the correct order. Okay, interesting. Because I don't remember it like interjecting.
Terms of being aired. Yet in this episode,
yeah, watch the show
Fang
for
in
sure.
it
It's
completely
awesome.
fine.
It's on HBO
There's no
Max.
explanation
I think,
or instance of her healing process anywhere within.
I think it's on HBO or Adult Swim.
The episode, and it's almost as if they had completely glossed over the massive cliffhanger from the previous episode. And when people saw this, they began to suspect that it was either possibly a spin-off episode from the main storyline, or maybe it was aired out of order as a prank on the viewers for April Fools. And as it turns out, the episode had been aired out of order. The episode was called The Plague of Madness, and it featured a sauropod becoming infected by a viral disease that we will discuss later in the Iceberg. Seeing how at the time we were in the middle of the pandemic, people suspected that this was possibly one of the reasons why this particular episode was aired out of order from the rest, but eventually the rest of the episodes aired in October later that year, revealing Plague of Madness to actually be the 7th episode in the season.
Yeah, okay, that's how I saw it. Interesting. Better not be a fight. Okay, good.
Genndy Tartakovsky's Primal Tales of Savagery is a Primal movie, but not the kind you'd think. When a list of 32 movies were announced to possibly get nominated for the Oscars in the category of Best Animated Feature, Genndy Tartakovsky's Primal was on that list. This was rather unusual because to qualify as an animated feature, you had to be an animated movie, and to be a movie, you had to have a runtime of at least 40 minutes. And Primal was neither. At this point in time, Primal was a 5-episode series with each episode being around 20 minutes long. So to be able to qualify for this list, Adult Swim had submitted a version of Primal called Tales of Savagery that retold the first 4 episodes in the season in a way that felt more like an anthology movie rather than a limited series.
Can we watch that? Is that available somewhere? That's fucking awesome. I want to watch that.
Because of this, the runtime requirements were met, and Primal was officially on the list for movies to possibly get nominated for an Oscar. But unfortunately, Primal was not selected for the nomination, and even though Adult Swim had said that they didn't plan on giving this version a wide release, you can buy or rent a digital copy of it on at least YouTube from what I've seen.
Maybe I'll do that. Gotta run away before I die. Krog. Which one is this?
Okay, let's talk about the Ape Men arena champion from the episode Rage of the Ape Men.
That's
now, I'm
what
sure many of you already have a general gist of how this guy is thrown into the plot. He's first introduced in the arena with his fellow Ape Men who proceed to duke it out hard. He ends up being victorious, granting him the honor of choosing a Triceratops skull helmet and drinking a drop of the Ape Shaman's black substance to prepare him for his battle with Fang, who he nearly beats to death if it weren't for Spear's intervention via ripping off his arms like Jax from Mortal Kombat. In summary, he's your standard run-of-the-mill antagonist of the episode along with the other Ape Men. But what you might not know is that the Ape Men arena champion actually has a canon name that is listed in the cast at the end of the episode, coming in the form of Krog. Due to Primal being a mostly dialogue-ridden show, cough cough Slave of the Scorpion, the name Krog was never directly spoken in the episode, but I personally think that giving this guy's name that small amount of recognition is appreciated and makes Krog feel more like a character rather than another creature for Spear and Fang to have a beatdown with. The Mega Spider for me is easily one of the coolest and scariest obstacles that Spear and Fang have ever faced.
That was a weird
like
episode, bro.
Tyrannosaur can't take down.
It was a weird episode because a bunch of weird fucking bats were going around capturing fucking people to feed to a dinosaur. I mean, to feed to a spider. It just didn't really make a lot of sense to me, but it ended up being really cool.
A spider, you know you're in for a bad day. Armed with its massive size, horrific jaws, and a web shooter protruding from its mouth instead of its butt, this arachnid was a terrifying force that would have ended up killing Spear if it weren't for Fang having a big brain moment and learning to play dead. But what if I told you that the Mega Spider was originally going to possess an additional ability that would have made it all the more terrifying? In the animatic pitch of the episode, when the Mega Spider first confronts Fang, it begins to radiate a high-pitched sound from its mouth, described by the narrator as a kind of hypnotizing hum, which causes Fang to become drowsy. The way it's described sounds kind of like Jigglypuff singing from Pokemon, except instead of drawing on Fang's face with a permanent marker, the spider would then proceed to shoot out its webs for a surprise attack. Like a lot of the other scrap content, there's not much context given to why this was cut in the first place, but it definitely would have made the Mega Spider even more scary than it already is, and that's saying something.
In their early development stages, each episode of Primal obviously had their own pitch meetings, or animatics if you will. And because these were just early sketches of the episodes, obviously they didn't have any sound or anything in them. So to fill in that gap, Genndy Tartakovsky presented the animatics by summarizing the events of what was going on as they played. And not only did he do this, but he also covered the sound effects for them as well, which is 100% the best parts of these animatics. Here are a couple examples of what I mean.
Okay. Interesting.
Let's go. It falls down. All the other dinosaurs look.
I mean, that's exactly how I pitch a fucking dinosaur show.
This has to be my favorite thing in the world right now. It's just so fucking funny. What makes the animatics this far down the list is due to some of the things that they hold. Some of the animatics show dinosaurs and creatures that didn't make it into the final cut, minor scenes here and there that were cut out as well, and early designs of some of the animals that look different from the ones we see in the final cut. A lot of these changes were pretty minor though, but there are some that we found so interesting we made them their own entries here on the Iceberg. We'll go more in depth with those changes as we get to them.
You know, it seems kind of cringe that he would do that, but like realistically speaking, you really have to sell your product. And if you're not willing to do some dumb fucking cringe shit like that, you're never going to get your product to be sold. That's just kind of like the reality of the situation.
This one's pretty self-explanatory, and honestly not all that surprising. Seeing how Genndy Tartakovsky also created Samurai Jack, it only makes sense that the fan base would try and connect the two shows in an attempt to conclude that
I didn't know that. I didn't know he made Samurai Jack. That's fucking awesome, bro.
they're both within the same universe. If you don't know what Samurai Jack is, it's also an animated show that Genndy Tartakovsky created, and it was aired on Cartoon Network and was aimed to be more kid-friendly, with the exception of its final season, which had aired on Adult Swim. The show itself revolves around a samurai that is trying to liberate his kingdom from the power of the show's main enemy, Aku, who is a shape-shifting demon. One connection from these two shows that I've seen is how the
I remember the voice actor for Aku passed away. I think it was the same one as the Uncle Iroh from Avatar. Sad stuff.
From episode 5 is similar to the black ooze from that of Samurai Jack's main villain, Aku. However, I'm not really a good enough source to tell you whether or not this theory is solid, as I didn't watch Samurai Jack all that much when I was younger. What I
mean, that might be a solid theory. Maybe it is. Maybe that is something, a connection between the show. That's fucking awesome. What are you talking about? It's fun to think. It's fun to think about it, you know? I think it's like really fun to think about that.
Tell you though is that given Tartakovsky's overall intentions with Primal, it doesn't seem like he's trying to actively connect the two
No, not in a
as
heavy
one.
way, but
and
it's like
anything
a,
that
it
could
might
be
be a
seen as a
nod.
possible link between the two shows is either a coincidence or a reference.
That's kind of cool.
If you watch Primal, you're most likely familiar with Genndy Tartakovsky, the guy who made it. I mean, his name is literally in the show's title, like how could you miss it? But yeah, Genndy has made a lot of other cool shows over the years, such as Samurai Jack, but he's also the creator
Now that I saw his face, I feel like it's like the dream reveal. I didn't want to see it. You know what I mean? Like, I liked that he was just, because I thought of him as a rugged, powerful, bearded warrior, and he's just kind of like a smooth Richard Gere type of person. So now it kind of ruins it for me a little bit, but that ain't too bad. It's all right.
popular cartoon show from the 90s called Dexter's Laboratory, which explores the idea of a young super genius.
Wait, he made that
called Dexter
too?
who whips up gadgets and gizmos in his lab throughout the course of the series. In one episode called Old Flame, Dexter creates a time machine and brings back the caveman who discovered fire from prehistoric times, proceeding to show him the joys of the 21st century. However, there's something very interesting about this caveman in the way that he looks, in that his design bears a striking resemblance to another caveman from another one of Tartakovsky's shows. So yeah,
That's
just looking
kinda
at
cool.
these two, it's clear that the Dexter's Lab caveman greatly influenced Spear's final design in Primal, and it acts as a nod to one of
Maybe.
Tartakovsky's best works. There's even
Or maybe that's just like a stereotypical caveman. He drew them both there, and there is no actual connection. But, it's cooler to assume that at some point he gets fucking time traveled, and we just don't see it.
Another much more direct nod to this that comes in the form of a 15-second bumper on Adult Swim, the channel that Primal airs on. Now if you don't know what a bumper is, it's a 15-second clip that plays before a show starts on Adult Swim, and they've been an iconic element of the TV channel for around 20 years now. In this specific bumper, we get Spear animated in a more cartoonish Dexter's Lab style coming through a time machine, proceeding to make his way around the laboratory, and end the clip by pressing a button that lights up the Adult Swim logo. Another thing to note is that this isn't the only Primal bumper that appeared on the channel. There's a whole host of them that aired at different times, all in different styles. One is animated in a Disney style, there's a cute Flintstones reference with Spear being locked out of his cave by Fang, and there's one where the two are just screaming at each other, which is oddly hilarious. But yeah, for those who have never watched Primal on Adult Swim, these bumpers may come as a surprise, and I hope we get to see more of them when Season 2 starts to air at some point in the future.
That's cool. Maybe there was like a plan that this kind of existed for a long time, and like he had this idea rolling around the back of his head, but he was probably locked into making kids shows at this point, so he didn't really like have like a really rooted out idea of that.
So yeah, this next one's a bit of a mixed bag, and I mean that because now we're talking about the scientific accuracy behind many of the creatures. And I know the thought of that might totally flip some people's biz, because Primal is pretty famous for being an extremely inaccurate representation of the prehistoric world, due to it being set in a
you guess you never know. There is magic in it, but you guess you never know. Which, by the way, I wish there wasn't, but they do it. It's done so well that it doesn't ruin the show. I just personally wish that there wasn't as much magic. I liked Season 1 more than Season 2 for this absolute simplicity of it. Or at least the beginning of the season, where like it was just like this very raw, gritty, two characters exploring the world, getting into like a random adventure that wasn't like super, I guess, in depth or super deep or any of that kind of stuff, you know. So then as they introduced more, you know, or I guess less realism, I was like, I'm not a big fan of this, but it still was such a phenomenal show. I just personally wouldn't have went that direction, but like, well, I mean, I didn't write the fucking show. I'm not dick worth the shit, so.
A fantastical prehistoric setting rather than a realistic one. But we're not here to talk about the many inaccuracies the show has in store, because one, we'd be here all day, and two, who even cares about an insanely graphic show about a caveman and a dinosaur being inaccurate in the first place? It's pretty clear that Genndy and the Primal team don't care too much about that stuff and just want to show us the wonders and horrors of the way our protagonists in this savage world.
Yeah,
but that being said, this doesn't mean that scientifically accurate representation isn't in the show at all. Far from it, in fact. There are many scenes and characters that pay homage to or reference modern paleontology and science, mainly coming in the form of the humanoid characters, including Spear and the sacrificial Ginger from Covenant of the Damned, the albino caveman from Terror Under the Blood Moon, the ape men from Rage of the Ape Men, the tool-brandishing monkey guys from Slave of the Scorpion, and lastly, Mira. The special thing about each of these humanoid characters has to do with each respective group being based on a real-life hominid.
I loved Mira and Spear's relationship. It was fucking incredible. It's probably the most poetic thing about the show. And honestly, let me not even say that. The relationships in general were fucking phenomenal. Because the relationship between what's happening? Okay. Because the relationships in general were fucking amazing. You know, with Spear and Fang had a really good relationship, and Mira and Spear had a phenomenal relationship. The ending of the show couldn't have been better. It was so good.
Such as the ape men resembling and possibly being designed around Australopithecus. Each of these hominids will be covered in more detail in the respective segment, so stay tuned for that, as it's actually pretty cool to dissect some of the design aspects behind these guys to determine which of our prehistoric ancestors were the inspiration for them. Hey, I remember the monkey caveman from Terror Under the Blood Moon, mostly from this funny meme template, but that's besides the point. These guys are actually the first in the long list of alternate human-like characters we see besides Spear and his family. Being portrayed as much more primitive and ape-like than Spear, as they all have bleached ragged hair, large sunken-in eyes, and very pale, almost albino-ish skin. They're also referred to as ancient monkey-looking cavemen in the Terror Under the Blood Moon animatic pitch. Taking this quote a little more literally, these guys also sort of resemble the hominid species Homo erectus, which were a species of human that not only predated
How do you know they're gay?
Modern Homo sapiens, but Neanderthals too, aka what Spear is based off of. Because these guys are described and shown as being more primitive than Spear, it's not too far-fetched of a conclusion to say that they were based off Homo erectus. Also, real quick, another big mystery that's left unanswered in this episode was who was responsible for making the freaky-looking stone pillars and skull carvings that Spear and
You got ads coming into the stream? Is that a thing? What? Interesting. Wait, why did it tell me to hearth? What the fuck?
and come across early on. And due to the way the primitive cavemen act, I would say it's unlikely that it was their doing. But yeah, after watching our dynamic duo take down their bloodbath adversaries, I hope that these dudes finally developed enough common sense to at least try and find a new place to live instead of constantly having to hide under rocks. I mean, come on, look at how hunchback they are. They're definitely gonna need a spinal surgeon at some point down the line.
I thought it said cute dinosaurs. It says cut dinosaurs.
The man-bats are the red dinosaur-sized bats that show up in episode 4 of the first season. Besides their immense size and grotesque facial features, the other notable thing about them is that they seem to have a symbiotic relationship with the giant spider that features in the same episode. We'll talk about that creature in a second, but the man-bats are quite mysterious, as there is still speculation as to why they're serving the giant spider. Given the relationship we see on screen, it seems that the bats bring back food to the giant spider, and in return she provides them shelter, I guess. According to Genndy Tartakovsky, the spider is supposed to serve as a sort of fridge for the bats, I guess using her webs as a way to store and preserve their food in. The bats hunt around the surrounding areas near their cave where they capture their prey and take them back to
Why that doesn't really make too much sense to me, only because like why wouldn't they just eat them on the spot? Like why would they need to store the food unless there was harsh winters where that symbiotic relationship would be absolutely like necessary? That seems bizarre to me, but okay.
The cave where they are then dealt with by the giant spider. The bat's prey varies from things as small as the monkey-looking cavemen that were mentioned earlier to as big as full-on dinosaurs. Overall, the man-bats are absolutely terrifying and help contribute to the show's first dive into a horror-related episode. The Mega Spider is the second enemy that shows up in episode 4 alongside the Man-Bats. The Mega Spider, as the name implies, is a massive spider that dwells inside a high cave and seems to serve as a sort of outlet in preserving any food that the Man-Bats bring in. As mentioned earlier, the relationship between the bats and the spider isn't 100% clear, so I can't tell for sure if that's the true purpose of their alliance. But this was—
Maybe all the bats are fetishists and want to fuck the spider. But the spider's like, honey, you better give me some food. And then they get her food. But she still doesn't put out. That's all I got.
was said by Tartakovsky during the episode's pitch meeting, although things from the final product have been known to change from their early development stages, so who knows if this still holds up. Regardless of that, there does seem to be some sort of attachment between the bats and the spider, because shortly after the spider is introduced, Spear and Fang fight it off and eventually kill it by impaling its head with a severed Triceratops horn. After they kill the spider, they make their escape in time for the flock of man-bats to return and find the mega spider dead. Once they realize this, the way they react is quite interesting. They seem completely distressed about the mega spider's death and go after Spear and Fang after making this discovery. By the way they reacted, it's almost as if they had lost something close to them. Maybe this is them realizing they no longer have a way to preserve the food they always bring in? Or did the mega spider serve a greater purpose to them? Maybe it served as a queen of some sorts? I guess we'll never really know for sure. Lula was a part of the Witch Coven in episode 7, Coven of the Damned. Lula ends up being one of the few characters within the show that actually empathizes with Spear and Fang's losses. During the episode, there is a scene in which Lula uses her witch powers to stop time completely, and time travels back to when Spear lost his family to the Red Rex Pack. She does the same for Fang, witnessing both of our main characters losing their families, to which she reacts in a way that's surprising to us as the audience, since a lot of the enemies within the show are rather bloodthirsty and terrifying. But Lula seems to genuinely feel bad for our characters. The reason for Lula's
this is another weird episode for me where I was like, what the fuck's going on? She was able to jump into she was able to like fucking jump into their minds and like look at their dreams and shit, and that's why she has empathy for them, because she was able to like do that. It was a bizarre episode. It was cool though. It worked out. It went really well. It was just another one of those episodes where I was like, what the fuck, where's this show going? But it's still incredibly good.
Action is shown to us later in the episode where she ends up traveling back in time to her own past when she unfortunately lost her own daughter. In this flashback, Lula and her daughter are in the middle of the flower field, and what seems like a pleasant memory at first ends with Lula's daughter falling to her death off a cliff near the field. It is that point in which we can understand why she sympathizes with our main characters, and as a result helps them escape the coven ritual that would follow that evening.
It's just, to be clear, it's because like they all had like the loss of a child, and that's why she empathized with them. The way that they have children though is fucked up. The way that the Lula and whatnot has kids, it's fucked up. They capture people, right? And then they suck their souls out basically, and then turn them into a baby. So it's a little bit, I would say, bordering maybe abuse or something. I don't know if it's pretty fucked up. What I'm trying to say, pretty fucked up.
Along with her time-stopping abilities, Lula is also able to transform into a crow and hypnotize living things, to which she uses to her advantage to help Spear and Fang's escape. And in the process, she ends up losing her own life, as the head witch, who was clearly not happy with her ritual being interrupted, kills Lula off-screen. The episode ends with a very bittersweet moment, as it shows Lula reuniting with her daughter in the afterlife in the same field in which they had their final good memory. This episode fucking sucks for how sad it is, and it's kind of ironic that I say that because it ended up being one of, if not my absolute favorite episode.
It was a good episode, and part of me was like, I kind of wish that she would permanently accompany them as like a new companion, and I was like, oh, this will be very interesting, like an interesting dynamic and scenario. But she didn't, and the episode ended really well. She got nay-nayed and her head got bit. She got literally shitted on. Not literally, but it was good.
Episode of the season. I think it's because it's just a breath of fresh air that there's an episode that primarily focuses on someone that's not Spear or Fang, and along with that, giving us a perspective of someone that we at first thought was an enemy, only to later find out that that's not the case at all. Overall, I really like Lula's character, and
it was like a victim of circumstances type of a thing. It was pretty cool.
The episode itself.
Why goo goo gaga, I'm a baby. You know, it's interesting. I was watching them like, wow, this is a really fucked up way to have kids. But then I was thinking, it's like, well, if their souls are sucked out of their bodies and put into kids' bodies, wouldn't that mean, to a degree, they're being immortalized? Did I just make your brain shit and come by saying that? Probably.
Moving along, let's talk about some cut content that comes in the form of cut creatures. These would have all been animals that popped up in specific episodes at some point, but never made it in at the end of the day. The only reason we know about these guys in the first place is thanks to the animatic pitches. I highly recommend checking some of these out, as a lot of them contain various degrees of content that I haven't seen the light of day. Anyway, the three majorly scrapped creatures come in the form of Ankylosaurus, Enslaved the Scorpion, Dimetrodon, and Spear and Fang, and lastly Styracosaurus and Plague of Madness. Much like a lot of the other scrapped content, it is unclear why each of these creatures were missing from the final product. Thinking about it logically, the most appropriate answer would most likely be related to time constraints or the showcase of the animals being unnecessary within their respective episodes. But it would be cool if we got to see each of these guys make a proper debut in Season 2, so we can see them in their full animated glory. To Do any of you remember the monkey guys from Slave of the Scorpion? Because I didn't. To me, it just seemed like they were shoehorned in for plot purposes, with them kidnapping Mira for some unexplained reason, only to be stopped by Spear and Fang as well as Mira's captors. But the more I look at these guys, the more questions I begin to have. It's interesting because they seem like a mix of the ape men and Spear's race of cavemen, as they obviously look more like apes than humans, but they also use handheld weapons, much like Spear. In the animatic pitch for Slave of the Scorpion, they are referred to as monkey men type dudes. And at second glance, this quote could actually be a bit more literal, as the resemblance can also be found in the real-life hominid Homo habilis, the first humans which had monkey-like features. So even though they play such a minor role in the series, it's still cool.
Monkey men type dudes. Yeah, I remember those things. They were kind of like completely unexplained. I was fucking confused, and then they kind of just rolled forward, and I ended up forgetting about them and not caring anymore.
Know where the inspiration for these guys may have come from, especially if this is supposed to be a reference to the bridge between humans and apes.
As I mentioned before, there's plenty of things that the animatics have that the final products don't, and one of those things are various deleted scenes that were cut before the animation phase of the show. I hesitate to call these scenes though, because a large amount of them are literally just very minor portions that don't even really feel like scenes. Really, a lot of the cut content on here were just very short shots within some of the episodes that were probably just cut due to time. Some of these kinds of shots show up in the animatics and nothing else. For example, one of the beginning shots of episode 1 shows a Dimetrodon running off screen after being briefly shown. Then there's the extended shot of Spear and Fang suspensefully making their way through the long grass while trying to avoid raptors in the episode 4 animatic. And of course, as mentioned earlier, there's the cut portion of episode 6 where Spear manages to kill one of the wild dogs as it was trying to enter the cave to attack an injured Fang. But as far as I'm concerned, there's one deleted scene that actually did make it beyond the animatic stage.
Lo-Fi Guy super chatted $19.99. It's been a while since I showed some love. Loving all the content you make.
Thank you so much.
Enjoy
brother.
listening while at work.
I appreciate that. I really do. Thank you so much for the $20, my man. It's more than generous. You didn't have to do that. Thank you so much, guys. Well, to everybody who donates, thank you so much. But thank you so much, brother.
Of animation development stage before being scrapped. And it was a scene in episode 10 that shows Spear and Fang hunting a Calicotherium, with Mira watching them as they eventually kill it. I found this scene on YouTube specifically with no audio, and the scene itself cuts pretty abruptly, so I'm not sure if there was more added on in terms of animation to this scene. And as far as to why the scene itself was cut, I would assume it was due to time as well, although I don't really understand why they would go out of their way to take it this far into development and just decide not to use it. But I will admit the scene
they had to get one more good commercial, probably an O'Reilly's commercial and on the show. You remember those? O'Reilly's Auto Parts. Brought to you by O'Reilly's. I am officially affiliated, guys. Just kidding. I'm not. I would never do that. That would be a career suicide to sponsor Papa God. Whoa, get away from me, brother.
And clearly isn't that important to the episode in any way. So I guess it makes sense for them to cut something like this out.
Sure. Makes sense to me. Makes sense to me, handsome.
In episode 5, Rage of the Ape Men, we're introduced to a different type of enemy. I know that's not saying much since every episode has a different enemy, but this one is different in terms of how intelligently advanced they are. The Ape Men tribe are a clan of chimpanzee-like humanoids that have their own society. The head of the society comes in the form of an ape shaman, or at least that's what I'm assuming he is. And as important as it sounds, the ape shaman is more of a minor enemy compared to another character that features in this episode that was talked about earlier, Krog. Krog no doubt steals the show with how intimidating and dangerous he looks, especially after drinking the black substance. But the reason why the ape shaman and the ape tribe in general are lower on the iceberg than Krog is simply due to how little we know about them, making them a very mysterious entry. What we do know about the tribe is that they are a race of bipedal, white-coated humanoid apes that seem to capture unsuspecting animals or humans to take back to their coliseum, to which they will force their captives to perform gladiatorial-like battles with other opponents, all for the sake of the tribe's own entertainment. In episode 5, Spear and Fang are forced to fight Krog after Krog finishes off the first round of fighters, which was a group of other larger-sized gorillas. But unlike Spear and Fang, it seems that Krog actually wants to be there and fight. And given by the way Krog acts towards the ape shaman, it gives us a little more insight on how much of a respected figure the shaman is in the tribe. As according to this wiki page about Krog, it mentions that he seems loyal to the ape shaman and goes out of his way to please him. It's not 100% confirmed whether or not Krog is actually a part of this ape tribe or if he was just captured and forced to fight too. But with how he acts towards the ape shaman in mind, it could indicate that he's probably a part of this tribe and wants to earn the shaman's respect. In terms of appearance, what makes the shaman different from the rest of the tribe is the animal fur clothing and the bone jewelry that he wears, along with the staff that he carries with him. He's also the one who's in charge of the fights themselves and rewards the winner of the first round with an advantage to help them with the next round of fighters. And of course, this advantage comes in the form of the black substance that will be discussed later in the Iceberg. But for right now, it should be noted that the ape shaman is the one who takes charge of the black substance. One reference I found really interesting within the show was the reference to the elephant graveyard urban legend in episode 3, A Cold Death. If you guys don't know what I'm talking about, the elephant graveyard is a famous real-life urban legend in which the oldest elephants in a herd go to a specific place to go off to when they reach a point in their life where they are near death. They go up to this—
There's a place in World of Warcraft like that. Wow, I'm a fucking nerd, dude. But it is inside of this place called the Desolus, just in case anybody was that curious.
specific place that's often described as sacred, and they see the end of their lives here, where other older elephants have done the same thing time and time again, hence why it is called an elephant graveyard. And if you remember from episode 3 of
Where all my exes go to die. Jesus, I'm also fat, so I don't know why I said that.
Primal, the elephant herd takes the tusk of the elderly mammoth back to a graveyard in which we see other remains and skeletons of other deceased mammoths that have most likely traveled there to spend the rest of their time of life before inevitably passing away. But from what we've seen in episode 3, if there's a scenario in which a mammoth has died before being able to reach the graveyard due to unnatural causes or something of the sort, then the rest of the herd takes it upon themselves to retrieve whatever remains they can and take it to the graveyard as a way to honor their fallen herd member.
That was a weird part of the episode, though, because in that episode, like, they were all walking in, like, a snowstorm, and then one of the things collapsed. And then they just kind of kept walking. They're like, that motherfucker collapsed. And it's like, okay, well, if you cared so much, why the fuck did you walk away from your friend then? You know? It doesn't really make any sense. It was weird.
And in terms of the real-world urban legend, it's considered to be a myth at times, as older elephants instinctively traveling to a place they consider sacred enough to establish a graveyard for themselves to die in doesn't seem to be something that's 100% confirmed. If anything, it serves more as a theory to help possibly explain discoveries like the one made in Saxony-Anhalt, I'm not even sure if I'm pronouncing that right, where 27 Paleoloxodon Antiquus skeletons were found in one area. In the case of the 27 Paleoloxodons, there's another interesting detail that I feel Primal also referenced in A Cold Death. And that's the fact that the tusks of the skeletons were missing, just like how Spear had taken the tusk of the elderly mammoth in that episode. And while this is also an interesting possible reference that Primal made, it may disprove the theory of an elephant graveyard.
Why do you think it's fake, man? I don't know. Like, to me, it's like, who knows, bro? Like, we are humans with, like, we believe in fucking shit like that. So, like, what's to say that they're not, you know? Like, what's to say that these motherfuckers aren't, also, you know? Who's to say that animals don't have, like, some kind of a level of, you know, like, religious or spiritual nature to them? You know what I mean? Like, who's to say, bro? Like, you think dolphins have that? It's just such an interesting concept to me.
Since with the tusks missing, it indicates a human presence was there and went out of their way to take the tusks. But this in itself is also just a theory, so who knows for sure. And as far as the elephant graveyard urban legend goes, it seems that some sources have concluded that it's fake while others are still open to theories revolving around it. But what do you guys think?
I don't know. I think I'm fucking hungry. Typical fat person, am I right, guys?
Oh boy, it's time to talk about Mira. So Mira was first introduced in the final episode of Season 1 Part 2, Slave of the Scorpion, where she met Spear and Fang and proceeded to tell them about her homeland. She starts to communicate with Spear through drawing in the dirt, telling him about her people and their enslavement at the hands of a different empire, leading to her being recaptured and taken away on a boat by the Scorpion guys. There's obviously a lot to talk about here, such as who the scary Viking dude she draws is, or why Mira speaks in Arabic.
My dad.
But I wanted to focus on how her departure from her main characters is setting up the third season of the show. Now, from what I've seen from theories online, many people—
I would never say my dad was a Viking. My dad's a fucking pussy, so. On me.
Believe that Spear and Fang will build a raft in an attempt to follow and rescue Mira, which is definitely possible. But another plot that I believe has a better chance of happening is what I'll refer to as the colonization plot. Basically how this would work would be instead of Spear and Fang building a raft and traveling to a new continent, the Scorpion people / Empire would arrive with more boats, along with a spooky looking Viking barbarian guy we see Mira telling Spear about, because judging by his reaction, it's clear that a confrontation between the two is being set up. If you think about it, it makes sense that the Scorpion Empire would return to Spear and Fang's land instead of the pair traveling to theirs. I mean, why else would a boat with—
That would have actually made a lot of sense, though, because yeah, in this episode they kind of, I remember in the episode before, but they get in contact with this character named Mira, and they become like companions in some capacity. And I was like, oh, this is cool, and I like that. It was an interesting angle to add a new character. And then they like came and like took her and ran away, which was weird to me. Like, why wouldn't they, like, it was weird, but it would have made more sense for them to kind of colonize and like create like a large thing where they had like a massive force and they couldn't like, confront them instantaneously. So it wasn't like, you know, super practical for them to do that, obviously. That I feel like would have made like more sense, because they ended up crossing like a huge ocean on a fucking raft. I don't even know how they did it. The thing is that it actually introduced like it was actually really cool that they did it like that, because it introduced like one of probably my favorite episode. Maybe, I don't know if my favorite. I keep saying my favorite, but one of my favorite episodes though was that like the two of them get separated after that whole thing goes down. And then what happens is they develop like they start getting develop relationships with other characters, but then they inevitably get pushed back together. So you know, you got to take your ebb with the flow, am I right?
Literal slaves on it be there in the first place. It's very likely that these guys are probably here to colonize and establish new territory with the assistance of slave labor, all being done by Mira's people. Following this theory, Season 3 in a nutshell would pretty much be about Spear and Fang confronting the Scorpion Empire and the Viking guy while also trying to reconnect with Mira and save their homeland. It's a huge jump from what we're used to viewing on the show, but it would definitely be cool to see these modern humans react to all the dinosaurs and creepy crawlies that the protagonists have to deal with 24/7. This next one is probably the most.
Oh, you were saying that the elephants were fake for leaving their friend behind. That makes a lot more sense.
Theory that's ever been cooked up, which is that the witches are the ones responsible for creating the Plague of Madness. Now, even though this theory is popular and talked about a lot online, there's actually little evidence present in the show itself that backs it up.
Oh, it's probably because they used magic that was green, and then the plague was green. That's probably the only thing linking the two.
We see no reference to the plague in the episode Coven of the Damned, where the witches are introduced, which is pretty typical for the show, as Primal sort of follows the whole villain of the week structure, where Spear and Fang face a new threat each episode. So it's possible that the plague and the witches are just entirely separate entities separated by the sheer structure of the show, with little connection being made to anything throughout all of Season 1. However, I think that this formula of disconnection is going to come to a close when the third season of Primal eventually drops, because it's being set up in a way where we could be getting an overarching plot involving the Scorpion Empire facing off against...
It's over a year later, and they're talking about when the third season eventually drops. Maybe. They pretty much, to me, they tied the fuck up out of that story afterwards, you know? I'm just saying. They pretty much tied that story up.
Fang as they attempt to rescue Mira. Not only that, but the Plague of Madness along with the Mad Sauropod was shown to be one of the few things that truly scared both Spear and Fang, even going as far as showing that creepy nightmare sequence with their flesh melting off their bones. And since Season 3 is setting up more of a consistent plot and eventual confrontation, as well as the Plague being a fan favorite iteration to the show.
And when they say nightmare scene, they mean like he actually had a nightmare that happened, which was like really interesting. I know that sounds like a stupid thing, but it's interesting how like impactful some of these moments are, where like they'll create some kind of a traumatic experience for these characters, where they're like, what the fuck? I just found it like really deep.
I think that it could be possible to see its return somewhere down the line, allowing us to be given some more insight into the source of the plague and if it really did
IMDb doesn't list it as
this would also
finished
act as some character development for both Spear and Fang, allowing them to face off against an old enemy and conquer their fears. Obviously, this is all speculative, but it's also cool to imagine what our protagonists could be facing in future seasons and how the world and lore Primal will expand.
Primal's original concept was much different than what it ended up becoming. Around 10 or so years ago, Genndy Tartakovsky came up with an idea that revolved...
What is that? Is that Ben Savage? What the hell is that?
Around a little Astro Boy inspired character and his dinosaur companion. Tartakovsky would sketch these ideas out and would make different versions of this character and his dinosaur, with all of them having a very cartoon and kid-friendly design to it. But according to Tartakovsky, the idea didn't click with him at the time, and as a result, he scrapped it. Little did he know, though, he would eventually revisit this idea.
Who would have thought that this show, Primal, could have... I got hair on my table. Who would have thought that this show potentially would have just become another kids show, and that like we would never have gotten this like more mature, like rooted out, like really the masterpiece.
And so then a few years passed, and we were doing the Samurai Jack adult version, right? The last season, season 5.
I've seen some of that. So it's called Rule 34 Samurai Jack. It's not bad. I didn't know he actually made that though. It's a little raunchy, but cool.
When that hit, everybody really responded to the sequences with no sound. And I started to think, what if we could do a whole show with just those sequences? And they generally had no dialogue. And then I started thinking about like, well, what idea what idea makes sense for this? And then the little kid on the dinosaur came up again.
So during the final season of Samurai Jack, the audience had responded well to the more mature tone the show had, along with its more quiet sequences that allowed the visuals and music to tell the story. Because of this, Tartakovsky didn't just want to go in this same direction with Primal, but he wanted to take it a step further. He wanted to take his former idea of a kid with his dinosaur companion and age them up, along with making the show more adult-oriented by making it more violent and have little to no dialogue. And originally, this was simply going to be a 7 to 10 minute short, but after the final season of Samurai Jack had finished, Tartakovsky would show his idea off to his team, and before he knew it, what would have been just a short film would eventually become a whole season of a show that would become known as Primal.
How do I feel about the moon god that Mira prays to healing or reviving Spear before he actually dies? And maybe the scene with his daughter was some sort of dream sequence from Spear. I would think that was a shitty cop-out. The ending of the show, Primal, was incredible to me because as a man, this is something I personally, maybe it's not because I'm a man, but I personally, I think a lot of people do, in some different ways, struggle with the concept of my own mortality. And the only way that I know of for anybody to become immortal is, and I know this sounds silly, but it's for their bloodline to continue, is to have children and raise those children well so that they can have children and they can raise their children well, etc., and so on and so forth. And so the ending of of Primal, where Mira, a non-lover to Spear, carrying his children, like having sex with him in like his time where he's dying, which I know sounds crazy. And to produce a child for him, that was a really impactful moment. And I was like, wow, like this is incredible. And I really identified with that. So.
One of the long-running mysteries in the first season of Primal comes from the 7th episode, where we're introduced to a rather strange enemy. The 7th episode, titled Plague of Madness, begins with a herd of Argentinosaurs roaming around their nesting grounds, when all of a sudden, a crazy-looking Parasaurolophus with green rotting flesh comes from the woods nearby and bites one of the Argentinosaurs. It's clear that the para had been infected with something that made it hostile and unpredictable, and when it bit the Argentinosaur, it had passed on that infection. And it wouldn't take long for it to take full effect over the poor Argentinosaurus. Soon its skin begins to turn green, it starts to vomit blood, and it becomes extremely hostile to the rest of its herd. And this would soon lead to a very brutal massacre
baby.
that would scar many who watched this episode.
How fucked is it that they released that episode after like a year-long hiatus when COVID like really started to ramp up? That's what they were saying. It's kind of fucked when you think about it like that. Oh my god.
This had all been caused by a plague, and the first instance of this plague that we saw was in the very beginning of the episode when we saw the para infected with it. But how the para became infected and where it even came from is unknown, as it literally comes out of nowhere in the beginning of the episode. And the plague itself works in a very strange way. In the beginning, it's indicated that the way it's passed on from host to host is physical contact, specifically being bitten by the creature infected with the plague. But soon after it was bitten, it's shown during the massacre that the infected Argentinosaur is biting some of its own members of the herd, yet they don't become infected. Instead, they just die immediately after. The only way I could explain this is that maybe the plague only takes effect on its victims if said victim is still alive. And even though there are instances of the infected Argentinosaur biting others, it bit them on the neck area, and the wound itself could have been enough to kill them, thus preventing the plague from taking its full effect. If this is the case, then that would throw one of the few theories that people have made around it out the window, and that's the fact that this plague is actually a virus that's turning the dinosaurs into zombies. But if they were trying to stick with the zombie formula, then that would mean the Argentinosaurs that were bitten should have been reanimated then, right? Yet they didn't, meaning that this plague is just making its victims sick and hostile, rather than killing them and making them come back from the dead as zombies. Or who knows, there's definitely more to the plague, and there's more theories centered around it, one of which we talked about earlier in this video. And this is due to the lack of
I guess that makes sense. Like maybe it just makes them go fucking insane, but then they can actually die and they're not actual zombies, and we just like think of it through a zombie filter because, you know, zombies are a big boy thing, you know?
Information we have on the plague itself and its origins, so I'm probably missing something for all I know. But what the plague also manages to show us is how vulnerable our main characters are, especially Spear. All throughout the season, we've seen Spear as someone who's seemingly not afraid of anything and is prepared to fight to the death in any given situation, no matter who or what he's going up against. Very few times do we see him fear something to the point where he feels the need to resort to his flight rather than his fight. And while this may drop the idea that he's this fearless hero of the show, it actually strengthens his development as a character. The kind of vulnerability that's displayed only emphasizes the fact that Spear is a human being, and like all human beings, he will naturally have fears. And while we've seen that his biggest fear throughout the show's run so far is losing his friend Fang, in this specific situation, it seems that his biggest fear is this infected dinosaur. And who could blame him? One of the strongest and largest terrestrial dinosaurs that's always been depicted as a gentle giant in pop culture media is now everyone's worst nightmare, as it no longer resembles a—
Forgot about all that pop culture media presenting those dinosaurs. But I know what they mean. Like every time when you watch like Jurassic Park, it's not like they're usually like very gentle creatures. Just stop fighting me, bitch.
Gentle giant, but a bloodthirsty predator. And after being shown what this plague is capable of, it only made people want to know more about it, as the episode doesn't really give us a whole lot to work with. As far as a possible reappearance for the plague on this show, I'm not going to say it's impossible, but I think it's unlikely that it will be revisited. A lot of people actually want the plague to be revisited in this series, myself included, so we could get some more information and or closure about it and its origins. And like I said just now, even though it seems unlikely, it doesn't mean it's completely impossible for it to make a possible return in Season 2. Since Season 2 will be exploring other regions with advanced civilizations, it's possible that maybe the plague's origin came from this very society and was somehow spread overseas. But this is all just speculation. The chances of this happening may be slim, so for now the plague just stands as one of the show's greatest mysteries.
Shady. Sorry, that was weird. That was a cringe moment.
The scorpion's appearance in Primal is limited to a simple drawing that Mira makes of him in the sand. There's a sequence in the final episode in which Mira explains her story to Spear in her native language. As she explains her story, she draws pictures in the sand to give him a visual reference. And while I'm not familiar with whatever language she's speaking, what I can tell about this scene is that Mira explains that she and her tribe lived in peace before being invaded by a group of hostiles. This group then enslaved Mira and her tribe to take them overseas back to their homeland that's being ruled by a warlord that we know as the Scorpion. If you guys want a direct translation to this scene, I'll go ahead and link Altiori's video in the description down below, as she made a video specifically revolving around translating this scene. And
it's kind of interesting though, is that like it was like Vikings were like the aggressors in this show, and then this was like a race of like black people, which seems pretty historically accurate when it comes to colonization. It's just not explicitly said like that, so it's just interesting.
Anyways, we don't really know much about the Scorpion as he hasn't made a physical appearance in the show yet. What we do know, given from Mira's story and drawing, is that he is a larger, stronger being with an army of men who are extremely advanced and intelligent, as they are armed with long-range weaponry and travel overseas by boats. What makes his drawing weird to me, though, is the horns that protrude from his head. Do these horns represent headwear of some type, maybe like a helmet or something? Or is the Scorpion a type of mythical creature that's worshipped by a society of advanced humans that are...
You know what's interesting, though? It's just like, I don't know, if you make it, like, if you humanize it, what's so interesting is that there's a lot of depictions of like weird people, like mermaids and shit like that, and a bunch of weird fucking creatures in different like mythologies across the world. And I think that a lot of those mythologies come from seeing somebody of like some kind of a different ethnicity that you've never seen before. This isn't just like, oh, hey, I went to China for a fucking week vacation and I was like, whoa, that's weird. This is like, you don't know that these other people exist, and you're introduced to them. And so, like, I wonder, like, how much of it is from, like, that. Like, when we saw manatees for the first time, that's what I believe we thought were fucking mermaids. We saw a manatee and went, what the fuck is that? Oh, my God. You know, and we couldn't perceive it because we've never seen anything before that we can identify with it or, you know, associate with it. So we're like, well, that's a fucking that's a person with a tail, you know? And so I wonder if that's almost a nod to that, where, like, they saw a Viking with a helmet on that had, like, spikes on it. And they were like, oh my God, that's a person with horns. You know? Like, I wonder what the Pope would have looked like to people who've never seen the Pope before, like back in the day. Like, would he look like a weird fish man? You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? That sounds weird, but...
willing to do anything he orders them to do. I guess we'll just find out in the second season.
Okay, I know a lot of you have been waiting for this one, but it's finally time to talk about the Night Feeder. A fan favorite, this monstrous midnight assassin was armed with blinding speed and claws strong enough to cut straight through its victims. There's no doubt that it was one of the most dangerous creatures our heroes ever had the misfortune of encounter. But of course, Spear being the badass he is, along with...
misfortune? Fucking Spear wanted to kill that motherfucker. That was also another interesting thing about Spear. He was always, like, doing these, like, basically altruistic things. He was also always trying to, like, defend, like, the weaker person. Except for when he was eating food. But outside of that, he was always trying to defend the weaker person. So he killed a creature they could have escaped from, even though Fang didn't want them to fight it because it was so, like, deadly. It was pretty cool.
Assistance from Fang brought an end to the demonic dinosaur in a blaze of glory. Now there's a lot to unpack here, so let's go one step at a time. First off, the Night Feeder is one of the most terrifying and mysterious creatures in the whole show, simply due to the fact that you don't actually see what's been hunting our main characters until the very end of the episode. And even
Bro, I kind of wish that they somehow made it so we wouldn't even see them at the end of the main episode, of that episode. Honestly, I kind of wish that because you didn't see it the whole time, and at first I'm like, that's weird, but then I was like, oh, this is actually pretty cool. Like, you don't actually see the enemy. It's like so frightening, and it's one of those things where, like, in a horror show, when you put the face to the character, it becomes less scary once you can kind of identify the character. And I was like a little disappointed that they showed us it, but I wanted to see it. But then I wish that, like, we didn't see it. You know what I mean? It's like my curiosity, and then afterwards I'm like, you should have never showed it. You should have let our minds wander. That would have been so much better, you know?
And it's still hard to make out exactly what it looks like. It's a very similar tactic to how Steven Spielberg shot Jaws, with us getting perspective shots from the Night Feeder as it runs through the forest in order to quench its bloodlust, without actually showing us the animal itself, and it works great. It adds to the suspense of the scenes and it lets the viewer imagine what monstrosity could possibly be causing all this damage. Secondly, the Night Feeder's amazing camouflage seemed to be aided by a black oil-like substance that it coated its skin with, as this oil was easily seen stuck to Fang's snout after she attempted an attack on the theropod. The oil-like substance may also be the reason why it took the Night Feeder mere seconds to be engulfed in flames, as if it were really a substance and similar property to oil, this would also help the fire spread across its...
I wonder if this is like a throwback to some kind of like ancient creature. Like, what's the reference there?
Whole body extremely quickly. However, the presence of the black substance is important, as it could also be a huge connection to something we've already seen in the show. Fast forward to the middle of the episode, we get a quick shot of Spear and Fang observing a cute dinosaur, as it's referred to in the animatic pitch, briefly spooking the pair and running off into the forest. Now this scene was responsible for sparking a popular theory online that this tiny theropod was actually the Night Feeder itself, and that the dinosaur would undergo a werewolf-like transformation at night, under the moon's influence.
Interesting.
This is believed mainly due to there being many different shots of the moon at night during the episode, as well as the Night Feeder never making an appearance during the day, so the evidence sort of adds up. But the nail in the coffin of this theory has to be the oily black substance that comes off the Night Feeder during Fang's attack. I mean, sure, it could just be using the oil for camouflage, but where else have we seen a black gooey substance that is shown to make animals transform into stronger psychotic versions of themselves? That's right, the black substance.
Every time I would come in a girl, she'd become crazy because I'd be like, we're nothing. What are we? Nothing. And then they would go crazy. So my comment is actually the answer to that question.
Seen coated on the Night Feeder may be the same substance we see the ape shaman using in the episode Rage of the Ape Men. There's plenty of evidence to back this up too, the first one being Fang's reaction to the oil getting on her snout. In response, she goes into a distress, roaring and snarling all over the place and whatnot. We've also been shown throughout the course of the show that Fang has a great sense of smell. She is a tyrannosaur after all. So wouldn't it make sense that what she's smelling is resurfacing a past memory that involved the scent of someone under the black substance's influence who was also about to kill her?
Maybe, or it's possible that like even though the black substance may like bring some kind of like dramatic and powerful change to people, she was just afraid of it because it's still like some kind of disgusting foreign substance. They never indicated if that black shit tasted like garbage, so she may not need to have the PTSD aspect of it. She may just be like, oh, this is a bad thing to taste, but that's possible.
More evidence for this theory is shown in Rage of the Ape Men. When Spear drinks the black substance, we get a quick shot of the moon right before he transforms, in the same way that we get recurring shots of it in the Night Feeder. Spear's transformation not only causes him to turn into a monstrous version of himself, it also makes him go on an unstoppable rampage that ends in him slaughtering every last one of the ape men, similarly to how the Night Feeder acts throughout the course of the episode. Another thing to note is that the black substance transformation only seems to work under the moon's power, as we see Spear return to his normal self after dawn, which would also be the case for the Night Feeder, where we see the small theropod and...
Does that mean... That is interesting. Does that mean that like I guess it wears off then in some capacity, because I was going to say, like, does that mean that are you taking so long to open? I mean that it's still in a system, but I guess not. I guess it also wears off, so you have to drink it and then it'll eventually wear off, and the moon will also have like an impact on it going off
next morning after the first night. So yeah, this theory is pretty exciting to talk about because there's a lot of evidence that backs it up. The only things left unanswered would be how the small theropod came in contact with the black substance in the first place. I mean, if it was able to cover its entire body in it, it would have needed access to a large supply. A possibility could be that the black substance is more tar-like than oily, and the theropod maybe fell into a tar pit of the substance, resulting in its transformation and the reason why its skin is covered in it. It would also explain why it dies so quickly to fire, as tar is also extremely flammable. But yeah, that pretty much brings an end to this theory speculation. Would also like to credit Thylacine13, sorry if I butchered your name, for providing the nuts and bolts of the theory. But yeah, the Night Feeder is just a really cool and mysterious character all around, and I hope we can get some more insight on its origin in the future, whether it be from the creators themselves or even in a future season.
Yeah, I almost kind of hope that they don't do that, because then it ruins the mystery. It was like when they added midichlorians to Star Wars. They're like, oh, the force is caused by fucking midichlorians, and I'm like, okay, well, that's lame. It removes the magic and the mystery from the fucking thing.
Look at the clock, time to talk about the head witch in the Coven. The episode Coven of the Damned was a real game changer for Primal, as the concept was far more supernatural than anything we had seen before, with magic, mind control, time reversal, all that jazz. But it definitely sparked people's interests, as it introduced some crazy concepts and ideas for fans to speculate about. Who were the witches? Who was their leader? And what were their goals? Something that has been pointed out quite prominently is that the head witch and the Coven share a lot of similarities with the cult of Aku, and the high priestess from the show Samurai Jack, which was also made by Genndy Tartakovsky. The cult is made up of only females who worship Aku, the main antagonist of Samurai Jack. The high priestess, their leader, also gave birth to female succulents who she raised as assassins in order to kill Samurai Jack, similarly to how the head witch is the one who gives birth or procreates in order to make daughters for the witches. With these connections present, it's obvious that these characters may have influenced the creation of the head witch in her Coven, but let me assure you that they aren't simply copy and pasted over from one of Genndy's other shows, far from it. After doing some digging, I found out that the witches may have been inspired by traditional shamans. Now if you don't know what a shaman is, they're described as people who were able to achieve various supernatural powers by making contact with ancient spirits, and it is thought to have originated from various hunter-gatherer cultures, making it pretty damn ancient. The events that unfold throughout the episode and the practices the head witch and her Coven undergo share a lot of similarities with shamanism, particularly what's referred to as classic North Asian shamanism, and there are many examples that make this apparent. Firstly, one of the traits of this shamanism was that the shamans were thought to be assisted by a spirit-like entity or group of spirits in the form of an animal when practicing magic, which could also act as a, quote, sexual partner. Now in Primal, we see that the witches reproduce by offering...
You know what's interesting about that? I'm going to be honest with you guys, as I watched Primal, part of me always wanted that dude to fuck the dinosaur. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't want to see it, but like I was like, these two should fuck. Their energy felt like they should fuck. I know that's weird because he's a dinosaur and she's, well, he's not a dinosaur. Actually, that's precisely why it's weird. But like, I was just like, should these two, I almost wanted to see it. Morbid curiosity, bro. You know? Just like I wanted to see Shaggy and Scooby-Doo. I didn't want to actually see it, but I was just curious. No, I'm just kidding. That second one was like weird. Bro, listen, I was like interested. I'm like, these two are like in love. Why aren't they fucking? All right, I'm sorry. Okay, it was an intrusive thought, and every time I give you guys my intrusive thoughts, you always tell me, Papa God, what the fuck's wrong with you? Come on, bro. Come on, dude. What would have been wrong?
Offering a sacrifice to the head witch, who transforms herself into an otherworldly Wendigo-like spirit that drains the victim's life force, using it to procreate. Following the earlier shaman trait, this is quite similar in the way that the head witch transforms herself into a spirit-like entity in order to give birth, or making new life. Since she has to transform or to call upon this spirit to procreate, it's very similar to the idea of a spirit acting as a sexual partner to a shaman from North Asian shamanism. But that's not the only similarity we see. There's a lot more evidence presented in the show that links the witches and shaman practices together. Some examples would be how shamans were known to have animal familiars that would obey their masters, just like the Pteranodon mount we see the head witch using, as well as Lula taking control of Fang for most of the episode. It was also apparently one of the distinguishing traits of shamanism for two shamans to combat one another in animal form, with the outcome of this combat acting as well-being for the victor and destruction for the loser. Sound familiar? And lastly, these shamans were most famous for being able to enter the spirit world by harvesting the power of supernatural forces, similarly to how we see Lula sort of time-traveling to glimpse at her own and other characters' past. So with all these connections, is it safe to say that shamanism had some presence in the creation of the head witch and the coven? Well, we can't say for sure, because it's not like the guys behind Primal to sit back and explain everything to us, am I right? But since the episode Coven of the Damned ended in a way where the witches could potentially make a return, I hope we get to see them again in the future, and possibly get some further insight into their origins.
I mentioned earlier that there are a ton of things shown within the animatics that look a lot different from their final products. A lot of these differences are very minor, and were probably only changed to help fit the story better for the episode. But one of the more striking differences is the episode 9 animatic, the Night Feeder. Throughout the whole season, Primal has explored different areas of horror, with some having a more violent and in-your-face kind of tone to it, like Terror Under the Blood Moon and Plague of Madness, while an episode like Coven of the Damned used a style of dramatic horror to tell a very depressing story about loss. But episode 9 ends up using paranoid horror as a way to keep the audience at the edge of their seats and terrified throughout the entire 20 minutes. And one thing that's essential with
that does make sense, especially since Fang was so afraid of the thing, and like Fang is supposed to be like the fucking bloodthirsty killer, so when that's afraid and its survival instinct step in and say, don't fuck with this, bro. You go like, damn, bro, you should not be fucking with that shit, dude.
Paranoid horror is to show as little as possible, as the whole point of this area,
especially since that theory is true with the whole black tar substance, like transforming it into like a fucking were dinosaur, which is actually a very cool concept. That'd be actually awesome. The problem would have just solved itself, you know what I'm saying, dude?
The horror genre is to rely on the unknown to terrify your audience, while at the same time showing them certain aspects of the unknown as a way to give them clues as to what it could be. And the show does a fantastic job with this, as throughout most of the episode, we aren't able to get a glimpse of the Night Feeder itself. Yet we are shown what it's capable of. It's able to kill off entire herds of dinosaurs, move at incredible speeds, and is strong enough to destroy a whole tree with a single slash. These clues only make us more invested in wanting to know what this creature is and how it is able to cause such destruction. And eventually, the Night Feeder is revealed at the very end of the episode. After finding out its weakness of fire, Spear and Fang light the Night Feeder ablaze, revealing it to be some sort of theropod dinosaur, possibly a raptor of some type. But this reveal had left many feeling like this was a rather anticlimactic ending, as a dinosaur as the main enemy didn't feel like it was anything new. But despite this, it led to very interesting debates and speculation as to what it could actually be, and how it managed to have these different abilities. But all of this has already been talked about here. What makes this whole thing weird is the original concept for the Night Feeder, and what it was actually going to be, because originally it wasn't going to be a dinosaur at all. This is what the Night Feeder looked like in the episode's pitch. And even from looking at this picture, I still don't really know what the original intention for the Night Feeder was at this point of the episode's development stage. And this is one of the many reasons why it's far down the list. Not only is it completely different from the Night Feeder we would all come to know, but it's also hard to tell what Tartakovsky and his team were going with this original idea. As far as the behavior goes, there wasn't anything new in the animatic that we didn't already see in the finished episode. In fact, the episode follows pretty much everything in the animatic, with the one noticeable difference being the Night Feeder's physical appearance.
I wonder why they changed it, or maybe that was just like a rough draft and they were just kind of debating on it. I mean, if anything, that contributes to the theory that it was like some kind of a fucking werewolf scenario. Because maybe they wanted to make it like a little bit of a throwback to that. It's kind of also a mystery. It's interesting.
And given from the few shots we see of it, its build looks much more robust and sturdy, as it has a short neck, a small head, and thick arms with sharp claws. This is the most we can actually see of it, but regardless of our limited view, we can tell that it was clearly made to look more like a monster, whereas the second version was made to look more like a theropod dinosaur, and as a result, its build was much more slender. And it's possible that this was the very reason for the Night Feeder's change. As I mentioned before, we know that the Night Feeder moves really fast and can kill herds of dinosaurs at a time in a very quick and brutal fashion.
That made her build different,
it would make
baby.
sense for the Night Feeder to have a more slender build to achieve achieve this level of agility. It's
so
clear that
different.
Tartakovsky wanted the Night Feeder to be some sort of monster, but maybe they just thought it would be a better idea to give it a different form that would
Maybe like Gabby Hanna.
fit more realistically with its given abilities. And this form would eventually take the shape of a raptor.
It does
or
look a lot. That
Megaraptor,
does look a lot more like Gabby Hanna. What if I'm the monster?
or some type of theropod dinosaur, giving us one of the show's most mysterious and terrifying yet memorable enemies.
Enemies, that's what I call them. Conclusion.
And that was the Primal Iceberg. Thank you all so much for watching. This was a very fun video to put together. I never made my own iceberg chart before, mainly because I was too lazy to, but it was actually really fun to do, especially with someone who loves the same topic of the chart as much as I do. And that reminds me, thank you so much to Pish for helping me out with this video. Pish wrote his own script for all the stuff he read out, and on top of that, he also made the intro for this video. So if you like his commentary and editing style, definitely go check his YouTube channel out where he plays dinosaur games and has dinosaur-related discussions. And speaking of Pish, I'm really excited to tell you all that Pish and I have created our very own Discord server. If you join the server, Pish and I will acknowledge your existence. But seriously, if you want to suggest possible video ideas or get exclusive updates...
What's your son's birthday tomorrow? Well, happy birthday. Happy birthday, son. I don't know what his name is. Happy birthday, Junior. Pablo. Happy birthday, Jonathan. Happy birthday, Philip. Philip Seymour Hoffman. Rest in peace.
channels, or just want to chat with us about random things, then come join us on the server. It's simply meant for us to be able to interact with you guys easier. Also, while I haven't thought that far ahead,
David, happy birthday, David.
Put together some Discord exclusive events in the future, like Q&As and live streams. And
I guess every other name
Again,
but that.
I haven't thought that far into the future, so I don't know if I'm going to be able to set all of this up, but just know that it is a possibility. So if
Well, that was good. I like that. That was, thank you for forcing me to watch that, guys. That actually was pretty good. That was a fun Iceberg video. That was a fun different video. It was different. Bob, why don't you stream on Twitch? I'm streaming on YouTube, brother. What do you mean? What do you mean? Because I'm streaming on the YouTube. Jonathan is the one that watched me the most. Oh wow, I guess that one. You know, I stream on Twitch, so I don't stream. I stream on YouTube, so I don't stream on Twitch. I don't want to burn through my I might dual stream at some point, but then I'll lose my partner, so I don't know if it's worth it. Especially since there's nobody to pull from Twitch to YouTube. Most people are already on YouTube. Anyway, guys, that is gonna be it for the stream. I'm gonna play my outro Patreon.
Everyone, thank you so much.
I'm
for
gonna play it in
watching
the right
this.
spot. All right, and then I'm gonna burn out of here. I do appreciate you guys. I love you lots. Have a good one. Thank you for stopping by. Peace out, Boy Scouts.
Everyone, thank you so much for watching, and a special shout out to all my Patreon patrons, my YouTube members, and my Twitch subs. If you'd like to learn how you can contribute even more than you already are by simply watching the video, you can check the links down below, which will unlock a special feature depending on the platform that you subscribe to, such as Patreon here that will get your name right here on this wall. Thank you so much, guys, again for watching.